What's going on, guys? My name is Moldy Fate here, and today we're going to talk about what if Tanjiro's in My Hero Academia, and this is the whole movie from part 1 to 11, and I hope you guys enjoy. Ever since birth, Tanjiro's father has been frail. Oh, and Tanjiro was the one to blame. Because of this, his mother would beat him senseless day by day. And because of Tanjiro's father's frail body, she'd overpower him most of the time. Despite this, Tanjiro's never seen him be wounded or act wounded. Tanjiro's father would explain of his breathing technique. It allows him to ignore the pain easier. Because of this, Tanjiro has been a kind person ever since birth, and is only known to be kind. One day, his father died, but beforehand, his father actually taught him the Hinokami Kagura, the sun god dance. It was a dance Tanjiro held close to his heart, because it allowed him to let go of everything. One day, his mother snapped and killed two of her own children, and was about to kill Nezuko when Tanjiro's quirk awakened. Tanjiro balled up a fist, and flames began to go out of began to appear from it, uppercutting his own mother. Her body was sent flying backwards and hitting a wall, but because of the nature of the quirk, it only burnt for a little. As she went for another stab, the police came in. Because of this flaming fist, Tanjiro ran out of breath and passed out. Tanjiro woke up in a hospital with a green-haired woman standing right next to her. Then the nurse came in. "Hello, Tanjiro." Oh, Tanjiro would wave back. The nurse stated, "Well, Tanjiro, because of the nature of what happened, two of your siblings have passed. But one of your siblings has survived, Nezuko Kamado. And because of the nature of both your parents being non-available, someone else came here to adopt you. This miss right here." She would point to the woman standing next to Tanjiro. "This is Inko Midoriya. She will be adopting you and taking care of you from now on. And if you feel free, if you really want to, you can keep your birth name if you feel the need to." The nurse would walk out. "Also, I forgot to tell you, we need you to stop by the quirk doctor in a little bit. Your sister keeps rattling on about how your fist became a flaming ball. Just to be sure, we need to test it." Because at the moment, his little sister was 4, she could have thought of anything to make an excuse of what happened. Tanjiro, after recovering for a little bit, immediately went to the quirk doctor. As the doctor stated, Tanjiro Kamado, of course, has a quirk. This quirk has not been named yet, but for the current time, we'll call it Solar Fist. Well, not Solar Fist, but it's a cool name, right? As Tanjiro nodded, kinda, Inko would ask what this whole Solar Fist does. As the doctor would state, basically, Tanjiro's body collects solar energy, and the way it gets let out is through oxygen, more specifically the oxygen in his blood. Because of this, he creates flames, but these are no ordinary flames, no, solar flames. If he activates his quirk at night, it won't be as strong as if he did in the day, basically. Tanjiro was amazed. His own quirk, kinda like his father's, only a little bit different. His father could just make flames through the oxygen in his blood. It had nothing to do with the sun or anything. Days later, Tanjiro and Izuku became fast friends. They considered each other like brothers, and because of the nature of Katsuki Bakugo, Katsuki would try and bully Izuku. But ever since Tanjiro got into his life, Tanjiro has become Izuku's bodyguard of some sorts, and this led to many fights with Katsuki Bakugo. One fight going a bit too far. It was at the playground again, and Bakugo was bullying Izuku, but this time it was more physical. Because of this, Tanjiro stepped in the way, pushing Izuku, and this one Bakugo let out a giant explosion point blank, leaving a scar on Tanjiro's forehead. Tanjiro was sent to the hospital and obviously recovered. A year later, Tanjiro was 6 and Izuku was 6, but Nezuko was 5, which meant that she had to go to the quirk doctor to see if she was going to get a quirk, which she did. And Tanjiro began to see a pattern in his family. You see, Nezuko's quirk allowed her to set her own blood on fire, but only if it was exposed to sunlight. Her blood would also regenerate, so she didn't have to worry about blood loss. But she shouldn't be reckless about it either, because if she loses too much blood, well, what's the point? And her body kind of gives up on it. So she has to be careful. This gave Tanjiro the idea to become a hero. Not only because of Izuku always going on about All Might, but now he has a real reason to. I mean, Nezuko always wanted to be a hero, and because of this, and because of her power, she would have to get beaten up, basically senseless, in order for her power to be affected, or her hurting herself. So if he became a hero, he felt like she wouldn't need to. Now, 9 years later, Tanjiro's 15 years old, and so is Izuku, and they both enrolled to UA. Tanjiro actually getting it, but for an odd reason. His name, Kamado, it was so weird. See, Kamado apparently was special to UA, but he didn't know why. And because of this, Izuku had to try a little bit more harder. Eventually, he did get enrolled based off his intelligence, and they both had to do the admission test. Basically, I'm so sorry. Basically, they had to fight a bunch of robots, and they had 10 months to get ready. Tanjiro, didn't really think about special moves to use, but all he can really think about movement-wise was the Hinokami Kagura dance. And basically, he'd recite it and create moves based off it, but at the moment, he could only create 2 moves. One move being Ember, and the other one being Clear Blue Sky. Hinokami Ember, which is what Tanjiro would call it, was a downward hook from either side of the body, the right or the left, and basically he would use the oxygen in his blood to create solar flames into his fist. And that was practically it. The next one was called Hinokami Clear Blue Sky, which basically Tanjiro would do a full 360 degrees roundhouse kick, basically setting his foot on fire like he'd set his hand on fire. But these were the 2 moves, and at the moment he was happy with them, but he would have thought of ones on the way. The 10 months went by quickly, and for some reason, Tanjiro and Izuku stopped training. Tanjiro wanted to talk about it, but all Izuku would give him was he wanted to do it himself. And then the test began. After a giant-ass lecture, and where Ida called out Izuku for mumbling and all that. But after that, the whole physical part of the test began. The goal was simple to Tanjiro: kill as much robots as he could, and he did that fairly easily thanks to his quirk. And also thanks to the fact that it was broad daylight and noon, practically the strongest his quirk could be. Because of this, Tanjiro was racking up points as fast as possible, until eventually the giant robot appeared. Tanjiro saw everybody running, and he questioned to himself, are these supposed to be the future heroes? They're running away to a bad guy like this? Tanjiro would run towards it, and he'd hear a girl. Tanjiro would leap towards not leap towards it. At first, he had to actually run on the buildings, using his feet to kind of melt so it'd stay on. But like how Endeavor did it. But basically, Tanjiro would have to run up to a roof, then jump off and try and hit the giant robot as he screamed Hinokami Ember. At the same time, Izuku showed up, jumping straight from the ground. And Tanjiro thought to himself, Last time he checked, Izuku was quirkless. And the next last thing he checked, quirkless people can't just do that. Maybe it was a delayed quirk, but he wouldn't buy that. They both did, and they both hit the robot at the same time. Tanjiro using Ember, and Izuku using a special move that Tanjiro had no idea about. After they destroyed the robot and rescued the girl, Tanjiro needed a private talk with Izuku on the way home. But he couldn't, because he knew somebody was tailing them down. But he would let it go. Eventually, the All Might would show up, and this surprised Tanjiro and All Might. All Might didn't know Izuku had a brother, especially since Izuku never mentioned it. And this is when the truth was revealed. Since All Might went to his weak form, All Might felt cornered. He couldn't make up a good excuse, and neither could Izuku. So everything came up to Tanjiro. Izuku inherited the power of All Might from All Might. Basically, it was called One for All, and it gave Izuku super strength. Izuku didn't want to tell Tanjiro because he felt ashamed, because Tanjiro worked so hard on his abilities, but he practically got his handed to him. Tanjiro, all Tanjiro could do was smile and see that, well, out of anyone in the world that he knows that would deserve All Might's power, it'd be Izuku. And he really didn't care that much. After that, Izuku and Tanjiro actually got even closer for a lot of reasons, and, well, because of this, they became brothers. Like, actual brothers. At first, they were just friends. You know, they happened to live in the same house, but now they're brothers. And they both shared a secret. They both went to UA at the same time, and they both promised that they won't tell anyone. When they went up to the UA building, they were looking for class 1A. Eventually, they made it and met everybody of class 1A. But they both had there was one more obstacle in the way. Their teacher, Aizawa. You see, Aizawa wasn't going to go to orientation. He wanted to make sure the future generation of heroes actually had a chance. So instead of going to orientation, they had to go to another test, a physical one. They'd go for a physical test, with the first one being ball throwing. And because I don't care about any of the other physical tests, we'll just go to ball throwing. Izuku did it, and he got around, 600 meters. Bakugo did it around the same time. Everybody did it, and it varied. Uraraka technically getting the most. But then Tanjiro was up, and he couldn't decide whether to use Hinokami Kagura Clear Blue Sky or Hinokami Kagura Ember, since he believed both of them would have gotten the ball far enough for him to at least make it in. And he did so well in the other tests, they didn't really care. He threw the ball up, and he breathed in. He breathed in the most air he possibly could, and his fist glowed bright, like a sun. He yelled, "Hinokami Ember." Because of this, the ball was burnt to ash, so the bot couldn't even register where it went. Because of this, Aizawa asked for Izuku not to burn the ball down, and Izuku had to use a metal ball. It roughly weighed the same, so it didn't really matter to Izuku. He threw it up in the air and he punched it again. The robot measured the ball's distance to be around 800 meters. And when they retrieved the ball was melted to the point where it was not even recognizable. Everybody was impressed, but Bakugo, he was kind of jealous. The next day, they decided to do a training exercise with All Might. This training exercise was practically a battle, a simulated hero versus villain-esque thing, and everybody was up for it. Besides Tanjiro. Tanjiro raised his hand, stating, "May I not participate in this one? I don't like hurting people, more specifically the people I know." Aizawa slammed his hand on the desk. "One day, maybe these people will betray you, or maybe you'll betray them. Either way, it doesn't matter. You're gonna have to fight heroes someday too. And you're gonna have to hurt villains, vigilantes, good people, without knowing." This line of duty is complex. If you can't handle it, leave now. Aizawa's coldness then stunned Tanjiro a bit. If anything, it motivated him, as he lowered his hands as he said, "Never mind." They all went to the ground beta, and they still went to the old building. Tanjiro was actually paired up with Izuku, which Tanjiro out loud even states that this was a bad idea. His ability and Tanjiro's ability kind of counteract each other. And of course, Bakugo was still paired up with Ida, which means, I don't know, I guess someone had to go, so Uraraka paired up with Invisigirl, I don't fucking know. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so then the battle commences, and it roughly goes around the same, only because there's not a lot of sunlight, Tanjiro's powers actually weaken because of this. And Tanjiro is still the one to fight Bakugo like all of the other times, and Izuku actually gets to fight Ida, which is probably a lot more interesting. Bakugo does some banter about Tanjiro's forehead, which basically is like, remember the last time I fought you? Yeah, I gave you that scar. And Tanjiro do some banter back saying, oh, I was caught off guard and all. They'd fight each other. And since their powers are technically kind of similar, and especially since his little sister's power is kind of similar, Tanjiro actually did a lot of studying on Bakugo's fighting style and knew a lot about it. Tanjiro would actually beat Bakugo for once by knocking him out of the building by using clear blue sky in a very creative manner. Bakugo technically was not out of the picture yet. He was unconscious, but didn't mean he was out. Tanjiro was looking for Ida, but he couldn't find him. Sorry. But until he heard a giant smash, and the entire roof collapsed. And he then found Ida on the floor with the bomb flying in the air, and Izuku holding onto it for dear life. Eventually, Tanjiro had to breathe in and use Hinokami on his legs. He then jumped in the air using air kami as a jet propulsion, kinda, to catch Tanjiro. Problem was, he didn't think of a way to land, and they both smashed on the ground. As technically All Might, in a very stuttery voice, saying, "Hero team wins?" All the other teams win as normal, so we don't have to go over them. After this, the USJ training exercise is announced, and all of the students get their costumes. Tanjiro's costume is pretty much similar to the one he has in the original Demon Slayer series, only it is sleeveless, and the Komodo acts more as a cape than anything. After this, we then enter into the USJ, and like normal, villains attack, real villains come and try and fight the heroes. Tanjiro is teleported with Izuku since he would reasonably be the closest to him, and since I must just say Mineta is not part of the series at this point, because honestly, I don't know how he'd get in. I mean, I don't know how Invisible got in, but yeah, we don't talk about that. But basically, the Tanjiro, Izuku, and Tsuyu are all together on a boat, in which Tanjiro states that since his main ability is fire, or more specifically, like a solar flame, water is kind of his greatest weakness. Tanjiro then goes how the villains probably don't know any of the students' quirk, and that their best bet is just try and get out of this in a very simple fashion. Everything in the sequence pretty much goes as normal, only instead of Minato throwing balls at the villains, Tanjiro, does nothing, because he really can't do anything here, can he? They all head to the main part of the USJ, where a very itchy individual is talking. This obviously is Tomura, standing next to Kataguri. I hope I'm saying that right. And here is where the story will differ in a major way, Because of the USJ's build, they have a sunroof, like greenhouse-esque build, which means Tanjiro's powers are not dulled here. And when Shigaraki was going on with how the Nomu can kill All Might, and how Shigaraki was about to kill Tanjiro's own teacher, Tanjiro and Izuku would both step in. Because of the nature of Tanjiro's quirk and his own idea of breathing, he would then kind of like a solar, I'm not gonna say flare, but he does increase like a barrier around him of a blinding light. And this would go off in a very quick succession, creating an after image in almost anyone's eyes surrounding it. The Nomu will attack it, realizes an after image, and after its attacks, the illusion would fade, and Tanjiro would punch Nomu in the face. And this is when Tanjiro gets to the idea of a new technique that he will call the Solar Rainbow Haze. I know this is not what it's actually called, but I don't know why he'd call it anything else other than like a rainbow haze or a solar flare or something like that. But basically, the basic idea of it's an after image illusion. After this, everybody is kind of on a loop because of how their vision has been altered. So at this moment, pretty much no one's gonna do anything for a little bit besides Tanjiro and the Nomu. Tanjiro obviously increasing the oxygen flow in his body for breathing techniques. Eventually does try and overpower the Nomu, and because the sunlight being directly shined on him, he's at his strongest, and eventually it hits noon, high noon, when Tanjiro is at his very strongest, and he will then perform the strongest version that he could possibly make, the strongest Ember. Because of the nature of this attack, the upper body of the Nomu would actually get, all the skin would have gotten burnt off, and Tanjiro would kind of feel a bit proud of himself until he realizes that the Nomu can just grow it all back, and disappointment settled in as fast as possible. The Nomu would go swinging for a giant ass slap, and then Izuku would jump in and use a smash. He doesn't really have a name for any of his techniques at the moment. It's a simple smash, a simple punch to try and at least negate the force of the slap. Around this time, Ida already contacted All Might, and pretty much other pros appear. And just like in the original, All Might fights the Nomu, beats it, and yeah, literally a lot of the original stuff. There's not a lot of things that would change until we get to the sports festival. Now, this is when a lot of stuff changes. The sports festival is still announced, and all the students have a week left. Tanjiro is thinking about new techniques, especially that solar flare technique where he created like a rainbow haze, and people were stunned. Now he's trying to focus on focusing on towards the opponent instead of it being a everywhere technique. He's also trying to think of new ways to implement his flaming fist and flaming kick, and he even created a flaming dragon at one point comprised of solely kicks, and we will see that later though. Eventually the sports festival does come up, and everybody's wearing the UA uniforms, with Tanjiro wearing a short sleeve shirt and actually having his feet rolled up. Now this is when Todoroki tries to call out Izuku as his kind of rival, but he also goes to Tanjiro. Because of the nature of Tanjiro's quirk of flames, he does see Tanjiro as a stand-in to his dad. Not like, as a father figure, but because his dad is flames, Tanjiro's flames, and Todoroki specifically doesn't use flames, it's it's kind of like that. He thinks of, if he beats Tanjiro, he's better than his father. Because fucking daddy issues. But we don't talk about those things. Anyway, so we get to the beginning part of the sports festival, and this is the race. Of course, everybody gets cramped into the entrance, and this is when Todoroki freezes the floor. Now, luckily for Tanjiro, just because the sun is blocked doesn't mean his powers are useless, and he melts the floor beneath him, and using the heat as kind of a jet, he starts to fly through the air. But because it's not enough heat for it to just slowly fly, it's more of a glide. So he's gliding through the air, stopping, jumping again, gliding. He eventually does catch up to Todoroki, but Todoroki destroys a 0-point robot, and then, 0-point robot to try and trick everybody, but Tanjiro simply goes over it. Going around his problems instead of trying to face them head on. And eventually Tanjiro and Todoroki are kind of head to head, and they are kind of like this for most of the race up until the landmine, where Tanjiro's gliding eventually does catch up to him. He then has to use a technique he remembers his father teaching him, which is kind of him twisting his body around an arena so he can dodge multiple attacks. There was never really a name for it, but now he'll just call it the Sun Dance. Because of this, he was able to dodge most of the landmines, and eventually Bakugo even catches up to them, trying to yell how he's been excluded even though he's probably the best one out of everyone. Now, you have to keep in mind, Tanjiro kind of got the most points out of everybody, so he still gives the speech. I kind of forgot to put that in earlier, but it didn't really matter all that much. Just felt I should mention it now. He did give the speech. But basically, Bakugo's been feeling excluded, and now it's time for him to shine. He tries to get the first place, but like in the original, Izuku still gets first place because he was smart. And then we get to the cavalry battle, where Izuku gets a 1 million bounty on his head, and since Tanjiro reasonably gets second place and Todoroki would get third, I think it'd be fair if Tanjiro would actually side with Izuku, since he's always been like that. It didn't really matter what placement he got anyway, he would have probably been on Izuku's team. Bakugo, once again, is feeling like he's been excluded. He feels like he should probably be at least in first place. Now, the way the cavalry battle is going to happen is Tanjiro and Izuku are on a team, with Tanjiro being the one of the back. I kind of forgot. I think it's like a horse or something. He's not going to be on like the top. He's not even going to be in the lead. Because of the nature of his quirk, he should be in the back. With Hatsume, I think that's her name, the one with the eyes and shit, and all the gadgets, she's also in the back. And instead of Tokiyami, I still think Uraraka Bach is gonna be the lead. And the battle begins, and pretty much because of Tanjiro's quirk, they get out of a lot of situations. Again, it's not a full-on jet yet, but it is somewhat like that, where it's enough for them to get out of situations. And because of Araka's quirk of gravity, it helps a lot more. So basically, for the entire cavalry battle, they could just run away. And that means that their band never gets snatched. So that's one of the big ones. The headband never gets snatched. And the cavalry battle kind of goes somewhat the same. Again, band never gets snatched. And then we get to the tournament. Now for the tournament, I'm only gonna switch out Tokoyami with Tanjiro to make it still easier for me and for you guys to understand. Most of the tournament goes the same, so we get to Tokoyami. Now, since Tokoyami isn't here, it's Tanjiro, and that means it's Tanjiro versus Momo Yaoyorozu. And because of Tanjiro's very kind nature, he does not want to hit a woman. So what he does to kind of combat this is he uses an expanding clear blue sky. Basically makes a giant kick, which then summons a giant circle that will expand. Because of this, Momo would get flung out of the ring because of the pressure of the heat. And then, technically speaking, Tanjiro never hit her. And Tanjiro doesn't feel as bad as it. But Momo's self-esteem does still get hit. And may I even say, gets burnt because of this. And then we get to Bakugo versus Araka. Still happens the same way. And the quarterfinals still happen. Was it quarterfinals? No, it wouldn't be quarterfinals. Basically, the next round still happens the same way. Izuku still loses to Todoroki. But because Mina Ashido is still technically a girl to Tanjiro, he tries doing the same thing, but Mina is very agile, so Tanjiro has to make up a new technique where basically he uses multiple clear blue skies, but he'll just call it sun's rotation for now. There's no real manga thing I could use, but I thought this would just be cool to create new techniques that technically aren't in the manga but still make sense within the story. So yeah, multiple circles are going towards Mina, and eventually it gets to the point where there's too much and Mina eventually gets hit and knocked out the ring. And now we get to the semifinals, so I was right earlier. Basically, it's Todoroki versus Ida and Tanjiro versus Bakugo. Todoroki versus Ida still happens the same way, so there's not really a lot to talk about there. But now we get to Tanjiro versus Bakugo. Because of the nature of this fight, Tanjiro and Bakugo do still have a lot of history that they want to settle out. And Bakugo feels like this is the perfect chance since it's in public, and if he beats him, he finally can gloat about it. But obviously, nobody else really knows about this, drama in between them besides Tanjiro. And obviously, Bakugo and Izuku. Izuku's kind of worried because he knows Tanjiro won't go too far in this match, but he knows damn well Bakugo will. So the fight starts off slow, basic flaming kicks, punches, basic explosions, but eventually they start talking to each other, and then they start just spilling how much they actually hate each other. Tanjiro would go off about how he hated Bakugo bullying Izuku for literally no reason other than the fact that he was quirkless. Bakugo's spilling how he hated that Tanjiro was always in the way, how he always thought he was better, how he always thought he was cooler because of his quirk. Basically, they'll go and they'll keep talking, and the more they talked about how they felt about each other, the stronger the attacks went, and the more that the audience of the festival started to know about their drama, and of course their classmates would hear about this, and they'll start having their own opinions on it, and all their opinions would just be based off what they're hearing, and because Izuku was there the entire time, he'd get a bit irritated because some of the opinions made no sense to him. They start going off about drama and stuff like that, and eventually Izuku would shout, stating that no one should have an opinion because no one was there. The only person who should have an opinion is himself, because he is technically the person who causes this. Eventually Bakugo and Tanjiro would hear this, and this would just set them off even more, blaming each other. Because remember, Bakugo still technically wanted to be Izuku's friend, but he had a funny way of showing it. Eventually, Bakugo and Tanjiro would then perform their final technique against each other. See, they both really created to fight each other one day. Bakugo flings himself into the air and rotates his body into a circle of explosions to a point where a flaming inferno, I would say, would form around him. Then Tanjiro would light his foot on fire and allow him to spin into a circle until around the same effect is made. But it's different because of the nature of his quirk. He actually changes his shape to look like a dragon. Eventually a dragon will spawn out of the circle, kind of like how a dragon will spawn from a portal or something like that. And then it'd be revealed to be Tanjiro with this pretty much preparing a kind of a spinning back kick. But of course, because of the speed, the flames would look like it's been delayed. Eventually, this dragon and this giant-ass vortex will collide, with Bakugo yelling, "Howitzer impact." and Tanjiro yelling spinning back dragon kick. Eventually they'll collide and will have somewhat of a small struggle, only a few seconds. Eventually a giant explosion of flames and explosions will be created, and then the steam, smoke, and dust will settle, with Tanjiro being the only one in the ring and Bakugo being knocked out unconscious outside the ring. Eventually a stretcher would show up because Bakugo was shown to have severe burnt marks, and Tanjiro's mark on his forehead actually got bigger than last time. Tanjiro would be concerned and would try and walk towards Bakugo, but then his body's fatigue would give in and pass out. Eventually, it's later revealed that Tanjiro would be the technical winner because he was the only one that lasted the longest, and now the final round would commence. Well, after Tanjiro recovers. Tanjiro is in the hospital bed, hospital-esque bed, as recovery girl kissed him and left, and Izuku would walk in with a few classmates walking close by. The classmates would obviously ask a bunch of questions about the drama in between them, the fact that they knew each other before school, the fact that they never talked to each other. They keep asking and asking and asking. Eventually, this got to Izuku to the point where he would yell at the classmates to leave. They'd all kind of leave, or Uraraka looking at Izuku in a weird way, and then keep walking. Eventually, Tanjiro would look ashamed of himself, and Izuku would apologize, because technically speaking, Tanjiro and Bakugo only hate each other because Izuku was too weak to defend himself, so Tanjiro would defend him for him. Tanjiro being he's really kind-hearted, so he'd be kind of oblivious to these feelings that Izuku feels like he caused all of this. Tanjiro stating that it's not his fault, it's really Bakugo's fault for bullying him in the first place. And eventually, this is when Bakugo wakes up and gets revealed the news that he lost. And Bakugo would begin to rethink a lot of things. This entire tournament, he was losing one after the another. And it wasn't because he was weak, it's because he let his hatred get in the way, and he would reflect on this. Then the final round commences, with Tanjiro finally being fully recovered. He would walk on to the giant platform, with Todoroki also walking on the platform. Because of both of their matches, everybody's kind of rooting for one guy and the other guy. Like, there's no real clear side of what the audience wants to win. And eventually my guy would yell begin, and they would charge at each other, with Tanjiro having a flaming fist in one hand and Todoroki having an icy fist on the other. This clash would make the audience feel a weird warmth because of the intensity of the icy cold fist and the intensity of the flaming hot fist. Because of this, it would kind of neg out the warmth, like the temperature-wise warmth, and everybody would be feeling like a weird breeze / like a heat. Tanjiro and Todoroki would begin to clash once again over and over and over, until Todoroki tries to finish off Tanjiro with a giant iceberg, but of course Tanjiro won't let this happen and perform a clear blue sky kick, which would allow a giant ring fire to destroy the giant iceberg. He would then perform an ember, which would clash with Todoroki's face, but Todoroki would happen to make an icy wall before Tanjiro can hit it. This would lessen the impact of the blow, and Todoroki will not get sent flying, not just yet. Todoroki would then try and continue on using ice, when Tanjiro would then begin to get pissed. Tanjiro is giving it his all, and Todoroki won't, as Tanjiro would ask if Todoroki would rather lose than at least try and do his best. What makes Tanjiro so different from Izuku? Todoroki would begin to think. This entire tournament has been changing his mind. Izuku was able to push Todoroki to use both ice and flame, and compared to Izuku, Tanjiro obviously is more skilled and more powerful. So what is really the difference? And this is when Tanjiro states that if he does not use flames in the next attack, then he will be done for, as Tanjiro began to charge up his flaming dragon kick. Because of this, the arena began to be flooded with a strange heat. It was almost like the sun itself was beaming on them from two different angles, as a giant dragon would wrap around Tanjiro, and then would clash into Tanjiro's body, giving a flaming aura. Tanjiro would then tell Todoroki that the time is up. Tanjiro would leap across the arena, and the arena would, for some reason, begin to melt based off the pure heat from Tanjiro. As Tanjiro would yell at Todoroki, "It's now or never." Todoroki would then use his ice flash, freezer burn, or whatever. Basically, he'll make a bunch of ice, then burn it away in a quick succession. This would obviously clash with Tanjiro's flaming dragon kick, and then it'd be revealed for the smoke that both Tanjiro and Todoroki were knocked out of the ring. After a while, Tanjiro began to go to the medical, thing and heal from it. Because of the nature of Tanjiro's quirk, he actually ran out of oxygen and passed out, and his foot began to have severe burns, stating that he shouldn't be reckless with his quirk because it is still technically a physical part of himself. After a while, they would have to settle this with an arm wrestling competition where Todoroki would win. Since Todoroki is the winner of the sports festival, All Might himself gives him a number 1 medal. That means Tanjiro gets the number 2 medal, and Bakugo gets the number 3 medal, with Tenya Ida actually disappearing, and he would get a number 2 medal later. After around, let's say, 3 days, Tanjiro would actually be hanging out with Izuku, when it is revealed that they need to start worrying about internships and stuff like that. It's more of a practice-esque internship thing, but it's same difference. And if you hear a noise in the background, please be aware that is a garbage truck. I live in the city, I'm sorry. Anyway, with that disclaimer quickly out of the way, we continue on with the story. They worry about internships, and more specifically the fact that Tanjiro got a lot of internships. Because of his kind-hearted nature with a side of anger, Tanjiro had a lot of choices to pick from, but he actually wanted to go with an internship with Izuku, not because their powers are similar, but because he was kind of worried about Izuku. With Izuku telling him to not worry, Tanjiro had to choose one, and he eventually did choose one. It was one of Endeavor's sidekicks, and because of this, him and Todoroki would actually get paired up as internshippies in Hosu. Around the same time, Tenya Ida took an internship around Hosu, and Izuku got an internship around Hosu. The day before they all went to Hosu, though, Tanjiro and Izuku had another final chat because they didn't think they'd be able to see each other, and with the next week of them just straight up training, they probably won't be able to talk to each other. But Izuku still would tell Tanjiro that Tenya Ida is acting a bit weird, and if he ever spots Tenya, keep an eye on him. Tanjiro does a little yes sir as a bit of a joke and would continue on with his day. Because of Endeavor's agency mainly focusing on flaming users, and that Tenya Ida and both Tenya Ida and not Tenya Ida, Todoroki, Shoto Todoroki and Tanjiro Kamado have flame quirks, they'd kind of practice on it, and of course Todoroki is getting a bit more used to his flame, and pretty much within the week, Tanjiro learned a lot about his own quirk. He basically explained that his quirk takes the oxygen from his blood and allows him to flames from his skin. And since he is mainly uses breath techniques to increase the oxygen, out of pretty much nowhere, Endeavor tells Tanjiro a place where he can learn more breathing techniques, and eventually he stumbles across actually the number 3 hero under Endeavor. His name is Kyojiro Rengoku. He pretty much has another flaming quirk like Tanjiro and Endeavor, and it kind of works around the same way, but it's a bit different. But like it could be mistaken for the same quirk. Basically, instead of Tanjiro harnessing energy from the sun, Kyojiro Rengoku actually uses the energy from his own body heat to create flames. And because of this, that kind of means Kyojo's flames are a bit worse than Tanjiro's, but like not too much because he is the number 3 hero. Anyway, so instead of taking the ownership of Endeavor like he's supposed to, he actually spends almost the entire week with Rengoku, learning about total concentration breathing. Well, that's what he calls it, recovery breaths and stuff like that. So the breathing technique Tanjiro learns in Demon Slayer, he kind of learns it here. He even learns a bit of moves from Rengoku. Since he is a samurai hero, he uses a sword, which Tanjiro would also use a sword, but because he doesn't feel comfortable with it, using an active weapon, he kind of imitates a sword with his hands. Eventually, Tanjiro and Todoroki do go to Hausu, and they do get a message from the Izuku Midoriya one night. See, a bunch of Nomus randomly appeared, and they were trying to help out. Izuku just gave him a location, and they both ran towards it, telling Endeavor, hey, go here if they're not back in this amount of time. Eventually, they save Izuku Midoriya and Tanya Ida from the hero killer Stain. Shoto Todoroki would just use a burst of flames, and Izuku would actually use his, what did I call it? He basically makes the, clear blue sky rings, but like the multi version of it, to try and make Stain back off with multiple burns on his body. Pretty much technically used against Mina Ashida. Because of this, these flames are actually a bit harder because of the total concentration breathing technique they learned. And Tanjiro, Shoto Todoroki, Tanya Ida, and Izuku Midoriya would have to fight Stain. Izuku will tell them that basically if Stain licks their blood, that they'll become paralyzed. Now, I don't know what Tanjiro's blood type is, but for the sake of this video, let's say it's like an average blood type, which means he probably gets paralyzed like average. Let's say, just say like him and Izuku Midoriya's blood type are the same. Alright, now with that out the way, the fight commences. Tanjiro would use a total concentration breathing technique, making his flames hotter and more concentrated. So instead of just like a burst of flames, it looks more like a jet, which allows him to use jet propulsion, kind of like Endeavor. So he does kind of fly, but it's still more of a glider, but like a more powerful glider. He eventually does use Ember, but because of total concentration breathing, it's a lot stronger than before. And he hits Stain directly in the face with a right hook. But Stain let him hit him so he can cut Tanjiro. But because of training with Rengoku, Tanjiro did realize that there will be some enemies with blades and learn the best way to deal with them. Basically, he grabs Stain by the wrist, and when he uses total concentration to increase his blood flow and oxygen, he would actually break Stain's wrist. He would then slam Stain on the ground as a pin. Stain would obviously get from this because he has overwhelming strength, and try and stab Tanjiro again, but he would dodge this. Again, he had to practice with a number 3 hero. Reflexes was probably one of the things he had to learn. After a while, Tanjiro does get paralyzed though from a stab wound, and Stain still looks it, so Tanjiro is paralyzed. But this is around the time when Izuku Midoriya, Tanya Ida, and Todoroki were around able to move, and so the ending of the fight is somewhat similar, with Izuku Midori using a smash, Tendi's using his kick, and Todoroki using ice to try and let them fall on the ground. After a while, the pros arrive and everybody gets scolded. Stain gets up. He pretty much is a menace. He puts on those black Air Force Ones and scares everybody, and then everybody realizes that his lung was punctured, so he passes out due to shock. They all are at the hospital, and basically no one actually had severe injuries, but Tenya Ida still feels like it's his fault because, well, he's the reason why everybody got badly injured. Well, at least that's what he thinks, but it's not really the same thing. The characters just recovered from the hospital and now are in class to discuss what is going on next. It is their final exams, Aizawa states, and they were all very confused. At first, they thought that their final exams were going to be robots, but when the class went outside, they saw a row of their teachers. As Aizawa stated, "No, you're not fighting robots, you're fighting us." As all of the teachers lined up, Aizawa would state them off one by one, as Tanjiro and Bakugo would find themselves to be the last one picked. As Tanjiro would ask, "Well, who and wait, me and Bakugo are teaming up?" As Bakugo would angrily state, "Less than that, who are we fighting?" But then All Might from the skies would jump and then land in a very epic and graceful manner at the same time, as he, in a menacing glare, would yell, "I am your opponent." Now, obviously, like in the original, the All Might fight is pretty much the very last one, and even though Izuku kind of took the place of Tokoyami, so whoever Tokoyami paired up with, that's exactly what Izuku pairs up with. But I'm pretty sure Izuku would pass, so let's just skip all the way to the Tanjiro Bakugo versus All Might fight. At first, Bakugo would try and put off Tanjiro, saying he doesn't need his help, and doesn't really care whatever he does as long as he gets to fight All Might, and that he stays out of his way. But Tanjiro would smile. What do you mean? Run away? This is the perfect opportunity for me to fight All Might and test my abilities. I'm not running. I only run when you run, Bakugo. Besides, we're teammates, so if I fail, you fail. Bakugo would smirk, like I'd failed you, that old bastard. The fight begins, and All Might blitzes towards Tanjiro and Bakugo. "You're wide open, boys," as All Might would clothesline both Tanjiro and Bakugo. But last minute, Tanjiro would suck in a bit of air and then breathe fire. So it looked like he got clotheslined, but in actuality, he dodged it. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Bakugo got the full power clothesline. Bakugo's on the floor. Tanjiro, with the momentum of the last attack, was able to perform at least a semicircle clear blue sky. Because of this, a giant crescent-shaped flaming, I wouldn't say blade, but just like a crescent-shaped flame expanded towards All Might. All Might saw this and tanked it. "I'm sorry, is this supposed to be hot?" he'd say. "Remember, Tanjiro, I'm not your teacher anymore. I'm not even the #1 hero. I'm the villain." As he would blitz towards Tanjiro and punch him directly in the gut. "And I am here," he would say in a menacing glare. Tanjiro would be flung into the sky as Recovery Girl, to the rest of the class, would state, "They're probably gonna fail this one. Both of them are too stubborn to lose to All Might." But as Tanjiro got up, he realized the situation. "I forgot he wasn't gonna go easy on us. We'll have to think of different ways we can win this. Running? Bakugo wouldn't allow it, unless he's knocked out. All I have to do is keep fighting until Bakugo's knocked out. Second Bakugo's knocked out, I'll probably blitz to the finish line. Which means, as All Might would be behind Tanjiro." "Which means what? You'll pass? No, I wouldn't allow that." But Then All Might would uppercut Tanjiro's stomach and a bit of the rib cage. As Bakugo would yell, "All Might, I can't heal ribs that easily." As Tanjiro would get flung to the other side of the arena, Bakugo would begin to recover his own consciousness. "Son of a bitch!" As Tanjiro would be flung right next to him. "Son of a bitch!" he would say again. "So, that old bastard's not holding back. I have an idea, but it's super stupid. If we both use our special moves at the same time." Tanjiro would remember. Yeah, I think I can do that." Tanjiro would use recovery breathing, and then total concentration Hinokami. Bakugo would fling himself into the air as All Might was running towards them. Tanjiro would then use his quirk to use the surrounding oxygen and burst them into flames. Hinokami, Flaming Dragon! As he would blitz towards All Might, preparing a full 360 degree, actually it's 270 degrees, since he's not going to be able to do a full rotation because he's saying something. 270 degree axe kick. Meanwhile, Bakugo's in the air. Howitzer! As he would then rotate his body. At the same time, a flaming dragon would come from Tanjiro. Tanjiro's flaming dragon kick plus the howitzer impact. The howitzer dragon kick, as they called it. It was the middle of the fight. They had to think of something. The dragon would morph with the howitzer impact, and both of the attacks would land on All Might. All Might's trying to block it, but some of his clothing gets torn off and burnt off because of the shockwave and the heat. Now All Might is beginning to sweat. We just need a moment. A single moment. As Katsuki Bakugo would yell, "Impact!" Then the rest of Bakugo's main impact began to settle. All Might would laugh. "Is this supposed to be an attack? Albeit I'll give you points for working together. But this won't work. Massachusetts Smash." He'd create an X, and the surrounding wind would blow both Tanjiro and Bakugo away. Bakugo would land in a building as Tanjiro landed next to a stop sign. Tanjiro would cough his own blood. "Son of a bitch, he's not going easy. I don't know what to do." Tanjiro is realizing that he might not pass as long as they can run away. But Tanjiro remembered something from Rengoku's training. A technique he learned. Us flame breathers have something special. The fact is that our inside bodies can handle the heat, but will also still correspond to it. "Tell me, Tanjiro, what happens when you get sick? What's the most notable thing with your inside body?" Tanjiro would respond, "I sweat? No. Your heart races. It's trying to settle in, but it doesn't know what to do other than to go faster. When I tell you to set your heart ablaze, I literally mean it. Once you do, your heart will beat so fast, your body won't even know what to do with itself." That's what I call, and that's what I do when I say I set my heart ablaze. It's not some catchphrase I use. It's telling myself, it's telling everybody my technique of why I can move so fast when my strikes hit so hard. Tanjiro, set your heart ablaze. Tanjiro would get up as All Might would smirk. "You only have a limited time, boy. So tell me, what's your next move?" Tanjiro would prepare a stance. "Have to grit my teeth." And then, as Tanjiro envisioned his own heart being set on fire, his heart began to race, his skin became red, and steam would appear because of the sweat being evaporated before he can hit his own body. "Set my heart ablaze." His hair would stand up and begin to spike. Then the Demon Slayer his marking on his forehead began to expand. Sorry, I said that on accident. Now, Tanjiro's body was bright red. What's this? This is new, isn't it? Tanjiro would prepare an attack. His fist would become flames, as he would say, Hinokami Ember. He would blitz at All Might, and for a split second, All Might couldn't keep up with Tanjiro. Tanjiro would then hit All Might, but the flames didn't appear yet. All that for a puny attack, as it was cut off as the heat began to settle in. Then a burst of flames went from where Tanjiro was to where Tanjiro is. His attack was delayed. I moved so fast that my flames couldn't even keep up, Tanjiro thought to himself, as All Might was hit a second time. What is this? He would say to himself. Tanjiro would then say to himself, I guess I can't go from long distance attacks. But that was way faster than what my normal Ember is. I think what Goku taught me was correct. If I set my heart ablaze, I'll go faster and I'll be stronger. Tanjiro began to hit All Might with a flurry of attacks, each attack being more faster and devastating than the last. All Might began to cough up blood. Tanjiro thought to himself, this must be it. I'm actually doing damage. But the fact was, All Might was really just running out of time. Tanjiro then hit him with a full-powered Ember, right in the kidney. This is when All Might coughed the most blood, and All Might was out for the count. Well, I mean, he's on the floor kneeling, but regardless. This is when Tanjiro would use his jet technique that doesn't really have a name for it at the moment, the grab Bakugo, and he would use this jet to boost himself towards the finish line, which they do cross, meaning that their team passes. Because of this, Tanjiro began to walk a few feet, and Bakugo would yell at him. I had him, damn it. Tanjiro would state, we had a second before we failed, as his body collapsed to the heat stroke. Tanjiro woke up in the hospital. As Recovery Girl would state, you overused your quirk. If you overheat your body, you'll pass out. Also, you need to breathe, remember? The oxygen in your blood allows you to use your quirk. If you don't have any oxygen, all you're really doing is burning yourself. Do you understand? Tanjiro would nod, as Aizawa would walk into the classroom. Congratulations, Tanjiro. You passed. The class already left, but I guess I need to tell you. All the people who passed get to go to a training camp. So be prepared. It starts next week. Have some rest for now. He would walk away. Tanjiro would smile. Is Bakugo doing alright? Recovery Girl would kind of frown a little. Well, the only time he came in was to yell at you, even though you were passed out. Tanjiro would laugh. Tanjiro was walking down the halls of UA. You see, Tanjiro, after the final exams, is in a recovery period, and since his family lives very far away from UA, they figured it would be way better if Tanjiro stayed there for a little bit than taking the trip going home and all the way back. Basically, Tanjiro stayed inside the nurses for like 6 days, but a day before the camping trip, Tanjiro hears something on the announcements. Tanjiro Kamada, see Mr. Aizawa in Principal Nezu's office, please. Tanjiro would wonder what's going on. He'd go to the principal's office and he'd see Nezu, Midnight, and Aizawa. Aizawa would tell him, Tanjiro, sit down, get a glass of water. Tanjiro would sit down. What's this all about? Midnight would begin to tear up. Principal Nezu would cut to the chase. Look, Tanjiro, my boy. As Midnight was doing her patrol, she stumbled across a kidnapping. This kidnapping was your family. She saw the League of Villains kidnap your sister, and Tanjiro would be silent. My sister and who? Well, they killed your mother and your youngest brother. Tanjiro's eyes would widen. What? She and I began to tear up even more, almost bursting into tears. I tried stopping them, but they were too far away and I wasn't fast enough. Tanjiro's body began to heat up. Aizawa was almost about to use his quirk, but he allowed Tanjiro to heat up a bit more. The glass, he only will use his quirk if the glass of water begins to boil. Tanjiro's anger began to swell up. My mother? And Nezuko? Tanjiro would slam his hands on the desk. Where's Nezuko? Principal Nezu with a calm voice. We weren't able to retrieve her, let alone find her. The water began to boil. You're supposed to be pro-heroes. You. As he was about to attack at midnight, Aizawa would stop Tanjiro's quirk, would use the restricting bands to restrict Tanjiro. You're supposed to save people. Tanjiro's eyes would begin to swell up, begin crying. I wasn't there, was I? I shouldn't have overdone it. If I was there, I'd probably be able to stop it myself. Aizawa would then drag Tanjiro. Don't beat yourself up over it. You're still going to the training camp. Don't worry, the pros are at it. All Might for the last 3 days has been looking. Now, Tanjiro would go back to the nurse's office since he kinda doesn't have a home right now. So he goes back to the nurse's office, and it is the day of which the class actually leaves for the training camp. But Aizawa would ask Izuku to do one thing. You see, eventually Izuku does find out about how it happened to Tanjiro's family. They're close friends. Aizawa would just simply ask Izuku, is there a place to stay for him at your house? We can't keep him in the school for long. Izuku would then stutter. Of course I can. Of course you can stay at my house. Eventually, they do leave to go for the training camp. They head onto the bus, and the bus ride for Izuku and Tanjiro is extremely silent. Only Izuku and Tanjiro knows what happened. Everybody else is talkative, Bakugo's being himself, and then Bakugo insults Tanjiro. Normally Tanjiro would blow it off, but Tanjiro would use Ember and punch Bakugo straight in the face. Of course, he wouldn't burn Bakugo's face because he only did it to the point where it was more of a warning shot. Bakugo was taken aback and almost angry. How dare he hit me? He'd think to himself. Aizawa would tell everybody to calm down with his quirk eraser on, and everybody automatically behaved. After a while, they entered towards the cliff. And this is my favorite part. So basically, Goda comes up, he hides behind this blue cat girl. Aizawa already knows her, and all the students are kind of wondering where the camp is. As she states, oh, well, if you want to make it before dinner, you should. The camp's that way. As they all look, are we supposed to walk? And she said, oh, no. You're supposed to fight your way there. And she then caused an earthquake and make everybody slide down the giant cliff. They all fall to the forest. What? Oh, I understand. Bakugo looks and points. We're supposed to be killing those bastards. As a bunch of mud-like and rock-like creatures would come and run towards the student in an obviously threatening manner. Izuku would destroy the first one using Hinokami Clear Blue Sky. I know, it's my favorite one to say, okay? He would use Hinokami Clear Blue Sky, and this would also wipe out a good wave of them as they would keep running towards the camp. They obviously, I believe they would do better, mainly because of Tanjiro's anger, so, you know, stuff like that. And yeah, massive deforestation, but who the fuck cares? Alright, I'm gonna run off on a tangent. We're back on track though. They make it towards the camp, and they're in Aizawa and what's her name of the pussycats? The blue one. The blue fucking weird one is surprised that they were able to make it to the camp on time. Alright, then we see Koda's aunt. Yes, I am referring to her as Koda's aunt. I don't remember her fucking name. I'm not gonna look it up. Koda's aunt comes out and she says, okay, well, we're only half of the pussycats. 2 of them are gonna show up tomorrow to help you train. Right now, we made you dinner. So, how about you guys go, wash up, eat dinner, and tomorrow you're gonna have a full days of training. As everybody seemed to be scared. We get the same bathhouse scene, only it's a bit different. Instead of Koda slapping down Mineta, it would just be Tanjiro jumping up towards Mineta and just full on spiking Mineta back down. I feel like that'd be way better. It also would show how Tanjiro's more of protective when it comes to girls, and Mineta's kind of creepy. Anyway, so not a lot of really important things happen up until we get to Izuku following Koda. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Izuku still gets punched in the fucking balls by Koda. I feel like that was supposed to be like that. I would never change that part. That was funny as fuck. Anyway, we get to Izuku following Koda. Eventually, Izuku would like lay a bit of food for Koda. Koda would like eat there. And yes, Tanjiro would also follow Izuku, and Izuku would notice. Eventually, Izuku and Tanjiro are alone. Bakugo's still awake, and he's kind of eavesdropping, but at the same time, not really. He's just riding by himself, but still hearing what's going on. Izuku will ask Tanjiro how he's feeling about the whole situation with his parents. More specifically, while his mom is dead and, well, Nezuko's gone. Izuku would basically tell Tanjiro that he can go stay with him until we eventually find a way to, accommodate you. And Izuku even states that his mom actually likes Tanjiro, so there's no real problem. And she'd always want another son anyway. Tanjiro would be silent, and he'd say that would be nice. But would it be nice if we can find Nezuko? I'm more worried about her. She must be scared and alone, and Tanjiro would pinch Tanjiro. Izuku would pinch Tanjiro. Izuku would pinch Tanjiro and say, hey, look, the pros are handling it. Don't worry that much. Who the fuck's texting me? Fuck off. Anyway, sorry. Tanjiro would be like, don't worry about it. The pros are handling it. Besides, I believe All Might's doing his best. You'll find Nezuko, and once you do, you both can stay at my house. Wouldn't that be cool? Tanjiro would be silent again and nod slightly. Bakugo would then look. Kind of look past the wall, but it's still looking at the wall, he's still eavesdropping. As he'd be like, He'd think to himself, so that's why he punched me, and he's been acting weird all. He's not this mean to people. That's probably it. Maybe I should. Nah, that'd be too nice of me. Anyway, we get to the second day. Tanjiro is training, but obviously he's trying to train alone, and he's not really understanding. He's not liking the trainer he has, which is the big muscly dude. All he really wants to do is just punch him in the face. Eventually, Tanjiro does have an idea for, not Tanjiro, sorry. Izuku has an idea for Tanjiro. Izuku basically explains his full calling to him. As basically Izuku's like, yo, alright, that crazy ability you used in the final exams, what was that? Tanjiro would basically explain it, how he concentrates heat towards his heart so it can beat faster. As Izuku would then state, well, my full cowling works as I basically imbue energy all around my body. Maybe that's how you should use your new power. As Tanjiro would begin to think about it, he'd then try and do it. Eventually he gets the hang of it, and he's able to do this, what are we gonna call it? Let's just say it's a Hinokami mode. There. It makes it a lot easier for me, and I don't really understand why he would call it Demon Slayer mark, since Demon Slayers don't exist.
So I think Hinokami mode would be a lot easier, and it makes more sense to me. So it'd be a better version of his Hinokami mode, and this is when he finally names it. Also, he thinks up of way better techniques, or at least how to better his techniques. More specifically, his after image technique, or the rainbow haze technique. Basically, how he uses it is he basically heats up his body to the point where he flashes somebody with like a ray of light. Problem is that when he does that, the image stands still, and especially if he does this while running, it doesn't look good. So basically, with this new version of his Hinokami mode, he's trying to be able to flash multiple times per second. And we will see this be fucking used. So this is the best idea I've ever had for this character. Honestly, no, I'm sorry. Running off track. Anyway, pretty much the second day goes the same until we get to the third day, which I'm pretty sure is the day where they get attacked. Basically, third day rolls around, pretty much the same stuff. Tanjiro's training, everybody's training, until we get to the test of courage part, and here's where shit hits the fan. So basically, since there is one more person on point A, Izuku is not alone. So Izuku and Tanjiro are together. But eventually, when the heroes start attacking Izuku, both Izuku and Tanjiro go to run to help and save Koda. This is where I get ballsy. Basically, alright. So, Izuku and Tanjiro go to face Koda, but you're expecting the muscular dude. He is there, by the way. But we're gonna add one more person. See, I'm gonna add my favorite bad guy, a villain from Demon Slayer to this, and he's just, we're adding Kokoshibo, basically. Kokoshibo's there, and he's mostly banking on the idea that Tanjiro is coming out to save Koda, or he's looking for Tanjiro. Tanjiro rolls up with Izuku, and Kokoshibo would then state, "I'll get the boy with the red hair. You're gonna have the green fool." As the muscular guy would say, "Like I would care who I kill. I'll kill them all. All of them." Koda would be scared shitless. And Kokoshibo would look at Tanjiro. "Those earrings, you remind me of my brother. Especially with that red hair of yours." Tanjiro would be confused. "Brother? Look, I don't know who the hell you are, but you don't have to hurt a kid." As Koda would run towards Izuku. As Kokoshibo would state, "We're not here for the kid. Pretty much, I'm here for you." As Tanjiro would be shocked. "You're quirked. It's not like any other quirk, you see. There's a certain gene in there. Breathing. I need that." Tanjiro would be confused. Breathing? You mean the fact that I need to breathe to activate it?" As Kokoshibo would nod. He would then pull out his sword. "You see, breathing is an essential part of life. Thing is, you have a special type. It allows you to heal yourself." Kokoshibo would cough. I'm not well. I need your quirk. That's all I really want." Kokoshibo would then extend his sword. "You have sun breathing. I have moon breathing. This cannot be more perfect. As much as I wish to see you at your full potential, right now I really don't care." Kokoshibo would extend his sword, but then Izuku would use full Kali and kick it and break it in half. As Izuku would then run towards Kokoshibo, the muscular guy would punch Izuku off the cliff. Tanjiro would then lunge at the muscular guy using Ember. As he did this, the muscular guy would get burned but healed by expanding his muscles. It doesn't matter. Basically, he gets burnt, healed up, and now they're all in a pickle. Kokoshibo would then say, moon breathing, crescent moon slash. Basically, he waves the sword and a bunch of pressurized air slash light, like crescent moon blades things, would like slash towards Tanjiro. It's weird. Moon breathing's a weird idea. But basically, a bunch of crescent-shaped blades like are coming towards Tanjiro. Because of this, Tanjiro gets cut the fuck up. And Izuku jumps from the bottom to the cliff to the top and would practically clothesline Kokushibo to the ground. The muscular guy would try and hit Tanjiro, but getting hit by water. The muscular guy would then run towards Koda, but then Tanjiro would use his new Hinokami mode, let's call it that. And Tanjiro would say, "Alright, Izuku, let's finish these guys off." Izuku, a full Cowan, would run towards the muscular guy, and Tanjiro, with Hinokami mode, would run towards the muscular guy, and they're both at opposing sides. Hinokami Tanjiro would basically use Ember to do the guy in the face. Izuku would do a fucking, what would we call it, a roundhouse kick to the guy's shins. Basically, this guy's getting tipped over. Then Izuku would do an axe kick to his body to finish him off. Okay, then after that, basically Tanjiro goes towards Kokushibo. But Kokushibo's gone in an instant. He then appears behind Tanjiro. "You're lucky I need you alive, boy." He would then slap the fuck out of him, sending him flying to the wall. He would then get knocked out. Now we are in a pickle again. Izuku has to get Koda out here, but he can't leave Tanjiro. He has to make a choice, and he hopes Tanjiro could forgive him. Izuku takes Koda and dashes the fuck out of there. As Tanjiro would look towards Izuku. "Thank you. We can't let him die." As Muscular would then, as Tanjiro would pass out again. Muscular would then state, "Okay, the other boy, where was he?" Kokushibo would then reply, "Bakugo Katsuki. We need his corpse as well." Kokushibo would then walk towards Tanjiro. "I'll take him back to base. You get the boy we need." The category portal would then open up, and Tanjiro would be dragged towards the League of Villains bar, I guess? Bar.
Izuku Midoriya was running through the woods with Koda in his hands as he handed Koda off to Aizawa. As Aizawa would ask Midoriya what is going on, Midoriya would state, "The villains are attacking the campsite and Tanjiro was left alone fighting another villain. I have to go back and save him." As Tanjiro was about to leave, Aizawa said, "Wait, Tanjiro, you are now permitted to fight villains." As then that one pussycat girl who had the quirk of I don't know, what was it again? She basically can talk to almost anyone around her. Doesn't really matter right now, but basically she says, "Oh, everybody's allowed to fight villains." So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the beginning of this part is gonna be a lot of the original. So yeah, expect that. Expect some deja vu. And if I do skip over stuff, it's not because I'm lazy. It's because it's not important. Anyway, so back to the story. Izuku goes back to where he first began. He does not see Tanjiro anywhere, but the muscular guy then jumps from the bottom of the cliff to the top to attack Izuku. As Izuku would yell, "What'd you do to him?" The muscular guy would say, "What, your friend? Oh, we already took him. Next will be the blonde brat. What was his name? Yeah, Bakugo." As Izuku would think to himself, what would they want to do with Kanchan? And they already took Tanjiro. What does that mean? Anyway, so Tanjiro and Muscular's fight is practically the same, only Koda is not there. So I'm not really going to talk about that much. But yes, Tanjiro's arms are broken. And he's running through the woods, going back to Aizawa, as he then yells to Aizawa, They're trying to steal Bakugo. They already kidnapped Tanjiro, and they're trying to kidnap Bakugo as well. As then the cat lady would then relay that message to a person named Kanchan, since of course he wouldn't say his real name. But yeah, Izuku still finds Bakugo, and Bakugo still gets kidnapped like in the original, so a lot hasn't really changed. But then we cut to Tanjiro waking up, as Bakugo is yelling at the other villains that he would never join the little circus group. Tanjiro would begin to yell, "What? You guys are this? You guys are the League of Villains, right? What did you do to my family? My mom and my sister and my younger brother, what'd you do to them?" As he began to yell, Kokushibo would then put a finger over his own mouth to shush Tanjiro. Tanjiro would be afraid at first because Kokushibo, he's fucking scary. So I'd shut the fuck up too. But yeah, Tanjiro is now silenced as Bakugo continues to yell, as Kokushibo would then ask Shigaraki, "Why do we keep them alive? I could kill them right now." And Shigaraki would look at Kokushibo. Well, our boss told us not to kill them yet. Bakugo and Tanjiro's quirks would be grateful additions to League of Villains. Even better, if they become villains themselves. Well, imagine the headlines, as he'd begin to laugh. UA students join Leagues of Villains. I mean, wouldn't that be a great story? As Kokushibo would exhale in disappointment. You and the media, I swear. As he's about to unsheath his sword. I don't care what your boss says. As he would then unsheath his sword and point the tip of the sword towards Tanjiro's nose. I was here for his quirk. I need it. His sister's wasn't good enough. As Tanjiro's blood would begin to boil. What'd you do to Nezuko? As Shigaraki would interrupt. We didn't do anything. As Tanjiro would then begin to exhale a bit more rapidly. But a hero told me that you killed my mom and my sister. They saw you walk away. As Shigaraki would then smile. We didn't kill your mom or your sister. She's alive and well. As Tanjiro would look to Shigaraki with a cold, dead stare. Then where are they? As Shigaraki would laugh. You don't know. That's hilarious. Your mom's dead for sure, but we didn't kill her. As then Toga would walk out with a person. As they were laughing and talking, Tanjiro recognized one of the voices. You know, with a quirk like your sister's, it's really hard to be a hero. So, if you can't be a hero then... As he would then see Nezuko walking towards Shigaraki. Then why not be a villain? As Tanjiro would begin to cry. You did something to her. You brainwashed her or something. As Nezuko would interrupt. You didn't brainwash me, Tanjiro. He simply showed me the truth. And he'll show you the truth as well. As her expression seemed a little fake, as if she was lying. You see? Your sister knows it, and you will too. Just join us. As Tanjiro would begin to cry, Bakugo, with all this mushy stuff, he couldn't take it anymore. He's never seen Tanjiro cry. As Bakugo would think to himself, this is my rival? As he would then yell out loud, whatever your bastards villains are thinking of doing with us, I won't let you do it. I'm gonna be the #1 hero. As Shigaraki would then laugh. Well, you see, that's not gonna be the case soon. As he'd laugh more and more, Tanjiro wouldn't know how to feel. He'd begin to look at Nezuko. Why? Why kill Mom? You could have just joined. Why kill her? As Nezuko would look at Tanjiro and get closer. She was in the way. Simple as that. As Tanjiro would cry even more. He would then inhale. You didn't. As then they'd hear a knock at the door. Pizza delivery. As Shigaraki would be confused. We didn't order any pizza. As he would then talk, he would get close to the door. Who's it from? As then they would hear a kind of familiar voice. Oh, it's just from the pizza service of... As All Might would burst through the door. Pizza service of justice. As Kodagiri was about to use his quirk to teleport everybody, what's his name? Gran Torino. Yeah, Gran Torino fucking knocks him out. And then he would pretty much knock most people out. Kamui Woods would entangle people, and All Might would rescue both of the boys. Are you two alright? As Bakugo would say, I didn't need your help, you old man. Tanjiro stayed silent. Tanjiro? Tanjiro would say, I don't know. As everybody was trying to get things wrapped up, Tanjiro all of a sudden felt this weird, moist thing crawling from his back. As he would then tell All Might, I don't feel so. As then he was teleported to Kami. Fuck. The place they get teleported to in the anime. I don't remember the name. It was a random ass city. I'm sorry. Basically the warehouse. Let's say the warehouse. Basically, Tanjiro, the League of Villains, and Bakugo would be teleported to the warehouse, as then they would hear a voice. Well, Shigaraki, I'm impressed. You're doing so good. Hell, you even got a new member. And it's from his family. I call this a little bit of irony, wouldn't it? As they would then look up, it was All for One. Yurichi Kamado. And his grandchildren. One's a villain, one's a hero. I would not believe myself. As he'd laugh, he would then float towards Nezuko. Your name is Nezuko Kamado, right? As she would then bow. Yes, sir. As he would then look at Tanjiro. And you? Tanjiro Kamado, correct. As Tanjiro wouldn't answer. As All for One would look. You know your grandfather and I were friends. Yes, he was a villain too. How about you just follow in his... As Tanjiro would cut him off. I would never. Unlike you, I'm not some scumbag that kill people, that hurt people. As Tanjiro would then leap at All for One. Kami, Ember! As Tanjiro's fist began to burst into flames, Nezuko would jump in front of him, as then she would cut her own wrist and then yell, exploding blood! An explosion was set off in front of Tanjiro's face, making him lean back. Get blown back. Bakugo would catch him though. So, she can explode herself too. Listen, Tanjiro, I got an idea. I'll take your sister on, and you get the hell out of here. Tanjiro would then wipe the sweat off his face. I couldn't do that. Bakugo would then state, well, what's the plan then? Tanjiro would remember. You remember the final exam, right? Bakugo would smile. I don't like it, but it might work. Tanjiro and Bakugo would then chase after All for One, but all the villains would get in the way, so they'd deal with them first. They would use teamwork. It was kind of beautiful the way they were working together. Tanjiro would inhale, set his foot ablaze, his arms ablaze, using all of his techniques, eventually entering his Hinokami mode, as he would then yell, Hinokami Kagura. Fuck, what was it called? Yeah, it was like Hinokami Kagura. What was it, like Flash? Whatever. It was like, all right, I'll get to it. Hinokami Kagura 60 FPS. Basically 60 flashes per second. You know that Rainbow Haze movie does? Well, basically, in this version, when he does that Rainbow Haze phrase, he makes his whole body flash into light. And 60 FPS is obviously 60 flashes per second. So now he can make an after image that it appears to go around a whole second delay. So basically, his enemies, what they're seeing is a full second before after what Tanjiro does. Sorry, it gets a bit confusing explaining it. But basically, that's what happens. Yeah. So most of the villains don't even know where Tanjiro is, because every single time they do hit him, there's a rainbow haze, and it seems like he is like teleports away. So what they think is happening is Tanjiro is teleporting every single time he gets hit, but in actuality, he's just creating an after image with a full second delay. And and they also like weirdly get hit a full second before he makes a motion. Eventually Kokoshibo, because he's just that guy, figures out what Tanjiro is kind of doing, and he basically guesses Tanjiro's moves a whole 60 seconds beforehand, and eventually understands Tanjiro's pattern. And all he really has to do is look at the after image, see what it's about to do, and kind of guess from there. Yeah, so Kokoshibo is going to be a very hard villain. He basically uses a bunch of crescent moon slashes to make a bunch of blades and shit, you know, like he is in the manga. I won't say a lot of his names because I don't want to spoil it, but just take my word for it, it'll be difficult. Eventually Tanjiro is able to fling Bakugo into the air, as Bakugo was about to do a howitzer impact and Tanjiro was about to do his fire dragon kick in the Hinokami mode. So yeah, it's fast as fuck, boy. And the howitzer impact with the dragon kick would merge together and go straight for All For One, but he'd block it, as then he would send the boys flying. But the boys would be sent flying in two parts, but in the middle, All Might would jump in and begin to face off with All For One. At that same time, the same team who went to go save Bakugo in the original, Izuku, Kirishima, Todoroki, Momo, and Ida, literally fly up into the air with a very smart decision. It's a nice ramp, and Izuku, Midoriya, and Ida are like pushing Kirishima and Todoroki. It was like super fucking cool, I'm not gonna lie. They're flying through the air, and Kirishima's like, take my hand, and Bakugo and Tanjiro both zoom towards the students. But Tanjiro looks kind of sad because he looks at Nezuko, and All For One kind of makes everybody go into a portal that he made. Pretty much the same scene, and All For One and All Might's fight continue like normal up to a certain point. So when All Might loses all of One For All For One was gonna go for a last blow, and as the fist was just about to hit All Might's face, a burst of flames appears, as then you see a person behind All For One. He looks behind himself. The number 2 hero, Kyojuro Rengoku. I know I made him the number 3 hero last time, but making him the number 2 hero I think is actually a lot better for the story. So that's gonna be a little retcon, but at the moment it really doesn't matter. As you then see Kyojuro Rengoku with his blazing cape and his fiery like hair, the boys would land and go to the television, and Tanjiro would look up and he would see basically his like sensei in a way. Look at him. As Kyojuro Rengoku out loud would state, Tanjiro, my boy, if you're listening, I'm so proud. You set your heart ablaze and it was beautiful. But now you're gonna have to see how it's properly done. How your sensei does it. As he would enter like the same type of stance he did in the movie, the Demon Slayer movie, as when he sets his heart ablaze, flames appear around him instead of internally. As Tanjiro would look, Tanjiro Kamado, listen here and listen close. these are my last words to you. If I die here, which I hope I don't, it would be a good day and a good reason to die. Remember, eat well, sleep well, and train well, and always do your best. The strong must protect the innocent. As he would then dash towards All for One, a giant dragon, a flaming dragon, like in the movie, unlike the manga, but like in the movie, would appear, and All for One is engulfed in the heat, and a fury of slashes from Rengoku's sword would appear, and All for One is getting fucking like cuts all over his body, deep, shallow, it doesn't matter, but he is getting a fury of it, and eventually he tries to punch he's trying to punch Rengoku, but he doesn't really have that many self-generation quirks. So the arm that Rengoku like fucking cut off is still trying to regenerate. So as he's punching with the other one, All Might would appear in his muscular form and would hold back the punch. As All for One was getting pissed off. All for One would then fling All Might and thus create a burst of wind to exterminate the flames. As Rengoku and All Might would get flung around the same area. Rengoku would state, I have one last idea, but this might be my last one, remember it. My body won't be able to handle the heat any longer, so I'm just have to go until I'm burnt away. Once that happens, go for the finishing blow, All Might. It was fun working with you. As he would then set his heart ablaze a second time, his heart would pump the fastest he's ever gone, and you visually see him cough up blood. The second the blood exits his body, it evaporates, as Rengoku would dash towards All for One again, doing around the same move, but this time he's doing a lot of his own moves, like the Tiger one, where it's a defense. He still does Blazing Universe, it's stuff like that, and honestly, he begins burning away from the back. His back is turned into char, and the longer he fights, the more his body looks char-like, to the point where his entire body is black. But it's black and it's charred up, and basically Rengoku's on his last leg. As All for One would quote, "Your mortal body, your quirk, it's weakening you. If you just joined me, I can give you a stronger body to handle that amazing quirk of yours. Why waste it here?" As Rengoku would state, his mother always told him, the strong must protect the weak no matter what. People like you, people who use the weak instead of protecting them, really just piss him off. As he continues his flurry of attacks, eventually his sword starts to melt away, and it finally caught up to him as his body was gone, just gone. His body would then, the ashes that remain then float into the air. As everybody looked shocked, as the news reporter who caught everything on camera would state, the number 2 hero is now gone. Everybody was in shock. But All Might did not forget the plan. As on All for One shock, All Might would then use all of the embers of One for All. Because in this story, since Izuku doesn't get it, I'll just give it to Mirio. So yeah. As All for One used all the very last embers of as All Might would use the very last embers of All for One. One for All, sorry. Very last embers of One for All. He'd do a United States of Smash. And yes, this one does land. And All for One is defeated. With All Might being shrunken down into his small face. But in this version, he does not raise his fist. As a matter of fact, he puts his fist close to his heart. And he begins to look up into the sky. Then he raises his fist. Everybody then raises their fist in excitement as Tanjiro is seen crying. Izuku looked at Tanjiro. "I'm so sorry. He was important to you, wasn't he?" Tanjiro would then wipe his tears. He taught me how to be better. I mean, as he would then begin to walk away. And now we cut to a day later. Tanjiro was getting settled into his new home, and he even told Izuku what happened with his sister and all. She becoming a villain, killing his mom, stuff like that. But he told Izuku not to tell anyone else until he was ready to tell everybody else. So yeah. All Might still shows up to Izuku's house to ask his mother, Inko, if they can stay in the dorms, and they do. And basically, everything stays roughly the same until we get to the Bakugo scene. See, Bakugo in this version, he already figured out one for all, but he doesn't care because he more wants to fight Tanjiro. Tanjiro's been in a depression phase, and he wants to beat Tanjiro out of it. So basically goes to Tanjiro, he's like, follow me. So Tanjiro's like, I don't want to. Bakugo would grab Tanjiro by the collar and drag him. Izuku sees this and begins to follow Bakugo and Tanjiro, and Bakugo would throw Tanjiro into ground beta. So Tanjiro would yell actually, what the hell, man? Bakugo would state, you've been in a funk recently. Look, I understand everything that's been going on, and I understand you're sad and stuff, but you do know the hero license exam starts soon, right? You can't be in a funk like this if you want to become a hero. So Tanjiro would then look down. Maybe I don't want to become a hero. What's the point? I couldn't even save my sister. Bakugo would grab Tanjiro by the collar. Yes, you can. And if you don't start accepting that, well, I'm gonna have to beat it out of you. So Tanjiro would ask, what do you mean? As Bakugo would tell Tanjiro, look around. Do you recognize it? Tanjiro would look around. Oh yeah, it's ground beta. Is that why you dragged me all out here? To threaten me? As Bakugo would then throw an explosive punch. Tanjiro in instinct would dodge it. Hey, calm down. Bakugo would start throwing a flurry of punches. It's either now or never. It's either you let me beat your ass, or you start fighting back. Eventually, after a few minutes of Bakugo just trying to assault him, Tanjiro would use Ember and punch Bakugo in the face. I said enough! Look, I don't want to fight you. Bakugo would feel around his nose as it was bleeding, as he would begin to smile. There we go. As he would begin again on his assault against Tanjiro, and the fight eventually escalated to the point where Tanjiro was now just straight up using Hinokami attacks, and Tanjiro's Bakugo's fight gets to the point where they're actually starting to destroy ground beta, as Tanjiro is using Hinokami, Clear Blue Sky, and he did like Clear Blue Sky multiples and stuff like that, and Bakugo was using Howitzer Impact and stuff like that, and eventually got to the point where Tanjiro was in his Hinokami mode, and Bakugo was just straight up in it like a pissy mindset. And Tanjiro and Bakugo would then clash, where Tanjiro is still using his Dragon Kick, and Bakugo using a heated, like an amped version of his Howitzer Impact. Instead of it being smoke, it's just straight up pure flames. As then they would collide, the heat from it would begin to start melting glass around them, as then an explosion is caused, destroying most of the buildings. Tanjiro and Bakugo would get up, and they would stammer towards each other. With a balled fist in hand, they'd try and throw one last punch when All Might would stop their punches. Is this what you boys do? You can't talk it out? And you, Izuku Midoriya, you really didn't think to stop this? As Tanjiro and Bakugo would look around, where was he? Izuku came out of bushes. They seemed to like have their own moment. I didn't want to. As All Might would motion Izuku to step closer. He would then look at the three boys. Look, you guys are the next generation of heroes. Too bad this one's starting to fail you guys. How about you do me a favor and don't kill each other while you're still learning? You then hug all three of them. And Tanjiro would even thank Bakugo, as this fight kind of cheered him up a little, but only a little. Bakugo would smile. And it better not happen again, asshole. As they begin to walk, as All Might would state, you know, Tanjiro, Bakugo, you're all gonna be able to be on house arrest, right? And you too, Midoriya, for association. As All Might would laugh. And even though, yeah, they'd probably get in house arrest, they didn't care.
If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. It helps out the channel more than you believe, and I hope you enjoy the what if.
Now, for clarification, just to clear up some confusion, I am not going to be adapting the hero licensing arc into the story because I genuinely do not like it. But for story purposes, I will state that Tanjiro does get his hero license. Bakugo also will get his hero license. Everybody gets his hero license besides Todoroki, okay? That's all I really have to say for the story. Hope you guys enjoy. Tanjiro is walking through the halls, staring at his hero license as a smile was on his face and a worry was in the back of his mind. Now that he's a hero, he can now license with other heroes under a sidekick-esque role, and not only that, he could probably find clues to help out his sister. Things were looking up when he gets his name, when he hears his name on the announcements. Tanjiro Kamado, please come to the office. Mr. Nezu wants to see you. Tanjiro runs towards the office and opens the door. Mr. Nezu, you wanted to see me. As Nezu would turn around in his ridiculously large chair with his ridiculously small body. Mr. Tanjiro, I have heard that you had a recent upgrade. You have your hero license, as he smiled. Congratulations, young boy. But with those news, your name is now officially on the hero registry, which means your name's kinda out there for all heroes to see, and a specific hero want to request you. Tanjiro would look confused. His name is Tengen Uzui, and he was a friend of Rengoku's. As Tanjiro would smile, any friend of Rengoku's could be a friend of mine, so yeah, I'll license under him. With this, Nezu had a bit of a worry. Heads up, he's kind of as Tengen would burst through the door. I'm kind of flashy. If you can't keep up, you're going to be behind forever. Tengen would walk in proudly. So, you're Rengoku's intern member, huh? I figured you'd be a bit more flashy. Tanjiro would look at Tengen Uzui. Name's Tengen Uzui. I already know who you are. Tengen would put a hand as Tanjiro would shake it. Tanjiro Kamado. Tengen would then ask Mr. Nezu if they can be excused, and Mr. Nezu agrees. Tengen would actually make Tanjiro sit in a limo as they would go to his agency. Tengen would ask a few questions of Tanjiro. So, name your quirk, and I want it to be a bit flashy. Tanjiro would just say, well, my quirk is named Hinokami. Tengen would then laugh. That's better, although it officially states fire breath. Explain. Well, it's not specifically fire breath, it's more fire manipulation. It's just I need to breathe for it to work. See, it takes the oxygen out of my blood, so the more quality of my breaths, the stronger my flames are. But I call it Hinokami because I always called it as a kid, and it kind of just stuck with me. Tengen would laugh. You know, Rengoku was a good friend of mine, and he had a similar quirk with fire manipulation, so I can work with a quirk like yours. So tell me, how about your moveset? You got any flashy moves you normally use in a fight? Because I know you've been in quite a few. Tanjiro would smile. I actually have a few. As Tengen would yell, great, because we're here and we're going to test them all. Tanjiro looked confused as they got out the limo into a giant arena. This arena constantly gets badly damaged by the heroes, and I constantly repair it. But with someone like you and your quirk, I need to know your full extent. What would you do if a more experienced villain attacked you? Tengen would then pull out 2 bats. I can't use my official weapons because that'd kill you, so I'll have to use these fakers. Now I want to see some flashiness, or I'm gonna reject your application to my agency. Tanjiro would get into a fighting stance. Okay, if that's what you ask. Tengen would have an open stance with the cleavers acting kind of like swords in a way. Tengen would then laugh. Then come at me. Tanjiro couldn't think of what to do first. Of course, he had multiple moves that could stun him a little, but he has zero idea what Tengen's quirk actually is. He didn't even read up on him beforehand, so Tanjiro had to start with his basic starter. As he leaped towards Tengen, his fist became flame as he then yelled Ember. A giant downward fist would eventually try and reach Tengen. Tengen would dodge, then hit Tanjiro with a bat. Well, good enough. Speed could use some work though. But don't worry, you're gonna have a lot of leg training when you're with me. Tanjiro got up. Then he had to use another basic one. As he said, clear blue sky. As he extended a leg and rotated his body 360 degrees, a giant shockwave of flame would be heading towards Tengen. Tengen would simply jump over it and then dash towards Tanjiro. Tanjiro would be taken aback, so he would have to use his FPS move. He would then flash his body to make a blinding light and do it multiple times. Tengen would slash at the Tanjiro that he thinks he saw, but in actuality it phased out of reality in a way, and then he saw the real Tanjiro behind him as he was about to use an Ember attack again. Tengen would crouch down and kick upwards as Tanjiro is launched to the air. As Tanjiro was in the air, he would then use a move he was trying to think of for a while, at least the name of it, as he called it the annual blue sky. It was basically him doing clear blue sky multiple times and in a more controlled fashion. As giant blades of flames headed towards Tengen, Tengen simply used a bat and used his quirk. Now you get to understand what my quirk really is. Sound copy. Tengen would upwardly slash both bats and create flames. These flames would hit Tanjiro as Tanjiro would launch himself back to the ground. Tanjiro would feel a sharp pain in his stomach as it's revealed that Tengen copied his flash per second move. Tanjiro was a bit confused. Sound copy. Any quirk I hear, I can copy it easily. Kinda impressive since I have a special move I don't even need to use for my quirk. But you're not that dangerous on your own, so I don't have to use it on you. This should get Tanjiro furious. This would make Tanjiro furious, as he then did a right hook with Hino Kami in it. Tengen would actually feel it this time. Wow, a hit. I'm surprised. Tanjiro would then use his Hino Kami mode in order to keep up with Tengen a bit. Tengen would comment on Hino Kami mode. An effective but dangerous technique. We'll have to learn, but we have to focus on that a bit, don't we? I can hear your heartbeat. It's almost shredding itself. You need a more effective way of using this, boy. Or it will. As Tanjiro launched himself, he missed, and Tengen stepped to the side, hitting Tanjiro over the head with a bat again. Kill you. Tanjiro laid on the ground, almost knocked out. As Hinokami mode phased out of his body, he collapsed due to the shock. Tengen would grab Tanjiro, and Tanjiro would be awakened into a bed. A king-sized bed? Where am I? He'd think to himself. He would walk out the room and realize he's actually in the Uzui agency. Tanjiro would be confused. They have a bedroom in their agency? Tengen would then walk up to Tanjiro. No, that's just my bed. I don't really move out. There's no point. Anyway, you did a good job, so I'm accepting your application to the agency. You should meet my lead sidekick, though. Inosuke Hashibira, come here. And also you, Zenitsu Atsugama. I'm sorry, I don't remember Zenitsu's last name. The old-haired boy with a thunderbolt on the back of his hero costume and a shirtless boy with a boar head walked up. They both saluted Tengen and they both took a good look at Tanjiro. Tanjiro would look at these two. These are Tengen's sidekicks? They're almost my age. Tengen would shout, "Come on, introduce yourselves and say your quirk." Inosuke would step up first proudly. "My name's Inosuke Hashibira. My quirk is very simple. I have super touch. I could track out anyone within a mile away just based on the wind currents. I used this so I could fight." Tanjiro would have a clear image. That's definitely Bakugo, but he's not as loud or annoying. Zenitsu would come up a bit shy and shaky. "My name is Zenitsu. My quirk is my quirk is super hearing, but I actually have a fusion quirk, super hearing and thunder." Tanjiro would be reminded of Denki Kaminari with that thunder, but it clearly seems to be a bit different. He has super hearing like Jiro. "Oh, my name's Tanjiro Kamado. I have technical fire breathing, but it's not in the way you think." Inosuke immediately went to what Tanjiro was not implying. "So you're like a dragon, huh?" Tengen would slap Inosuke. "No interrupting. Continue." Tanjiro would continue. "Well, you see, when I breathe, I can actually gain oxygen in my blood, like you should. With this oxygen, I can actually ignite any part of my body. Like so." Tanjiro would hold out a fist as it began to ignite into flames. Inosuke would yell in a boisterous manner, "That's so cool. Fight me!" As Tanjiro would actually back up a bit. Tengen would hold back to Inosuke. "We only fight during training. Right now it's work." Tanjiro would be escorted around the building, getting used to some people. He obviously was aware of how this whole hero thing worked, but the way Tengen did it was it's a bit different. The second something goes on, Tengen would basically burst to it without any information. He's giving information on spot instead of waiting for information in the first place. And thus, like on cue, they get an alert. Tengen would smile. "Well, I was just gonna train you for a bit, but a villain's already on the way. Come on, and remember, if you can't keep up, then fall behind. Now, as the god of festivals, I now declare, let's go defeat this asshole." Inosuke would get his giant blades with a circle-like hook. Tanjiro could only wonder what he'd ever used those for. I mean, he's not trying to kill villains, he's trying to capture them. And yet, they almost seemed necessary. Inosuke would get similar blades as Zenitsu just followed. He didn't have a blade. Tanjiro would follow as well. They all had their own way of getting to where they needed to be. Inosuke and Tengen just used a super strength-like way by running towards the scene without seemingly getting tired, but they didn't have a super strength quirk. Zenitsu just speed and blitzed around the city, trying to get to the scene. And Tanjiro used his feet like jets and flew. Eventually they got to where they needed to go. A Nomu, a different type of Nomu, showed up. This Nomu looked odd, pitch black, and his quirk was even worse. That's right, I'm adding a Nomu for obvious reasons. See, his quirk was just like Kokushibo's, but in a different way. Instead of having a sword, he extended his arms, and instead of shooting out crescent blades, the blades would just begin to spike out of his arms instead of being crescent blades, they're just regular spikes. This Nomu was dangerous, but luckily it did not have the same healing factor as the first Nomu All Might fought. So Tengen basically told Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke this information. and assigned Tanjiro and Zenitsu to fight the Nomu, as Tengen and Inosuke would try and rescue civilians. Tanjiro would ask why the two fastest arguably would have to fight the Nomu when they could be saving civilians, as Tengen then stated, "Well, you see, my quirk is a bit dangerous, especially right now with that Nomu's quirk. I already heard it, and it's really hard not to copy it. Me and Inosuke have the most physical prowess, of course, but you guys can get this Nomu finished easily and faster, as we have to rescue people. If you guys beat it fast enough, maybe we can join in, or if you give us enough time, we'll join in after rescuing everybody else." Inosuke would be bummed out, but he didn't argue. Tengen and Inosuke went left and right, as Tanjiro and Zenitsu had to stare their enemy down on. Zenitsu was kinda scared, but eventually confidence overwhelmed him the second he got into the mood and the mode. He cleared his mind, and he basically told Tanjiro what would happen. "I'ma rush him. All you have to do is keep him busy. My attacks only work when I charge them first, so the first time I rush him, you have to keep up my speed. I know that might be hard, but I know you can do it. Well, at least I hope. You understand? You keep attacking him relentlessly. Once you get tired, I'll jump in, hit him with another charged bolt, and hopefully that gives you enough time to regain stamina. Let's make this quick," like Tengen said. He has expectations. Tanjiro was taken aback by Zenitsu's seriousness. The first time he met him, he was just a coward, but now he seems to be in a zone state. Zenitsu would then calmly state, Thunderclap and flash. As he charged at the Nomu, his hand would resemble like a chopping motion. As the Nomu's arm was completely chopped off, Tanjiro had to try and match Zenitsu's speed, but it didn't work. Tanjiro simply had to use his jet and then yelled Ember as he punched the Nomu in the face. The Nomu was flown back, as he then tried to regrow his arm, but it was slowed down, enough for Tanjiro not only to notice, but able to use a annual clear blue sky, so all of his limbs would get chopped off. But this Nomu wouldn't get taken down that easily. He had another quirk, a transformation-esque quirk, as now he transformed into a giant dragon. This is different. A Nomu that can transform after. That's odd. The Nomu couldn't breathe fire, but he was a Western style dragon. An Eastern style dragon, the one you see in Japan normally. Unless he was giving a sense of levitation. Because of this, Tanjiro had to change up his formula. Zenitsu had to use Thunderclap and Flash sixfold to try and at least distract the dragon long enough for Tanjiro to get in the air. Once Tanjiro was in the air, he flew past the dragon to the Nomu dragon, as now he had high ground. He was closest to the sun as he yelled Hinokami mode. His skin became a reddish pink as he then launched himself down. Think of something. As he then used his fire dragon technique and his Hinokami mode mixed. This increased not only the flames but the speed. The dragon resembled, at least the flames resembled, a giant dragon eating the Nomu dragon. This would cut the Nomu dragon in half. Because of this, the Nomu dragon began to regain its normal Nomu shape. And it resembled the Nomu beings. The lower half of the Nomu's body was severed from the upper half. But that was not it. Something was different and off. Tengen called Tanjiro and Zenitsu over comms. Something's off. Nomus are not that normally easily beaten. Something is... As then Tengen heard something over Tanjiro's comm. A spark. As he then told Tanjiro to dodge, jump, move, anything. Tanjiro jumped in the air as a giant burst of blue flames appeared. And out of the shadows, Dabi. I didn't expect you to be able to move that quickly. How'd you know I was there? Tanjiro wouldn't speak. Dabi, what'd you do with Nezuko? Tengen would speak to Tanjiro over comms. Forget your revenge, forget all of that. All you have to do is beat him or leave. Tanjiro, if you can't get your emotions in check, then I'll have to beat them back into you. Do you understand? This may have been a threat from Tengen, but as far as Tanjiro knew, Tengen wasn't here, so it didn't matter. Where's Nezuko? As Dabi, with a calm expression, walked towards Tanjiro. Nezuko's in a safe place. Look, I understand she's your sister and all, but you really need to calm down. It was her choice. Tanjiro charged at Dabi, but Dabi sparked a blue flame in his palm, and simply a giant jet engine could be heard. Tanjiro's eyes widened as he was bombarded by blue flames. Tanjiro quickly got out of there, but most of his clothes and skin was burnt off or burnt to a crisp. Tanjiro was severely bleeding, and it was hard for him to breathe. Tengen had to jump through the air in order to save him and use the same blue flames Dabi did against Dabi. Dabi moved out the way quickly. Tengen had an aggressive stance. Dabi would then sigh. That's too much trouble for my taste. I did what I had to do. He quickly tried to run away, but Tengen tried to actually cut Dabi, but it was actually revealed to be a twice clone. Son of a bitch. As he then ran up towards Tanjiro, Inosuke and Zenitsu would already be at the scene. Tanjiro's body was burned, and Tanjiro passed out. Tanjiro was rushed to the hospital, third-degree burns all over his body. As he began to fade in and out of consciousness, the doctors began wrapping his torso and face. He lost consciousness. The second recovery girl kissed him. All the energy in his body now was converted to healing it. Tengen was outside the room. If only I was faster. Damn it, he thought to himself. Inko began to burst through the door with Izuku. Where's my boy? Where's Tanjiro? As recovery girl would walk outside. Yeah, Inko Midoriya, right? Inko began crying. Yes, Tanjiro. I'm his legal guardian. Good. Well, he's gonna be okay. He's gonna be around, and to my estimation, a week before he can wake up. A week? Izuku yelled out. Remembering he was in the hospital, he quieted down. What do you mean a week? I thought you could heal him. Inko looked at Izuku. You know well enough. Your body needs energy to heal itself. And he burnt up a lot of energy. So it might be a week before he can even wake up, let alone heal his scars. But scars don't heal. They fade. I think after he wakes up, you need to have a chat with him. According to what happened with Tengen, he has some things to work through. Recovery girl began to walk away as Inko directed her anger towards Tengen. And where were you during all this? Tengen got up. Miss Midoriya, I can explain. You see, Tanjiro and I and my team were on a mission. A Nomu came out of nowhere and we had to stop it. Tanjiro was doing fine when it was revealed that the Nomu was a decoy. Then Daki from the League of Villains. Well, not Dabi from the League of Villains showed up. Tanjiro began questioning him out of anger. And eventually, Dabi burned him. By the time I realized Tanjiro was pursuing Dabi, I ran to him as fast as I could. But by the time I got there, I was too late. The most I can do is try and pursue Dabi, and did you capture him? Inko cut him off. Tengen continued. It turned out to be a decoy from another member. I'm sorry. You. Then Izuku would grab his mother. Listen, I believe Tengen's a good guy. If Tanjiro wanted to work with him. Look, what it seems to me is that Tanjiro succumbed to anger, and, well, he
He didn't know what was coming. It's nobody's fault but, well, Dobby's. Inko began to break down. Tanjiro held her. Tengen was trying to step closer to Chen because all the family's Inko began yelling, telling him to leave. But Tengen stated, I'm legally not allowed to. I'm supposed to stay here until it recovers. Besides, I began thinking of Rengoku. I have a debt to pay. A debt? Inko began crying as Izuku tried directing her to a different room. Izuku eventually walked up to Tengen. So, is he gonna be okay? Yeah, the doctor said as Izuku would cut him off. No, not physically. Tengen looked down. I don't know. I read his file, and Jesus Christ. Tengen had to sit down. I've been a hero for a long time, kid. My best friend died in battle. Your friend was Rengoku. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Tengen continued. But this kid's life is a living hell. He reminds me of Tengen thought to his past. How all of his brothers died from his father's hand, and thus he had to kill his father to save all of his brothers, to redeem them. He then was snapped back to the present. Never mind. The shit this kid went through, no kid should go through. That's why I became a hero. His mother, his father, and even his own sister. And according to the case file, there's going to be a newborn soon. These League of Villains, they're not villains. They're monsters that we have to kill. Izuku stood in silence. I'm nowhere close to Tanjiro, as you probably are since you're here. Maybe you can talk to him, talk some sense. I'm not telling you to make him forget it. What I am telling you is that this happens again, I might not be able to save him next time. If I wasn't there, Dobby could have killed him. And that wasn't even the real version of him. Izuku stood in silence. I'll try, but what he really needs is someone like him. I will admit, my life is kind of bad, but from what he went through, I can't even compare. Tengen and Izuku stood in silence as they both asked themselves, who could help Tanjiro at this point? A week goes by, school goes as normal. Tanjiro in the hospital. He was dreaming. He was dreaming of him in the snow, waking up to his sister. At first he was frightened, but then his mother was right behind him, with a pregnant belly and their father right there, hugging each other. Their hugs were so warmful that the snow around them melted, and summer came, sun rising, when all of a sudden it burst into flames. Tanjiro looked around. His family were all in flames. Odd flames. He looked around more and more as the flames vanished, and a man was walking towards him. He looked. This man had fiery hair like him, with a cold expression, a katana in one hand. Your name, boy? Tanjiro Kamado. What did you do to my family? This is a dream. Well, a bit more than that. Say, you're Tanjiro Kamado, then you're my descendant, probably. Tanjiro would look up. Are you my dad? You look like him, but something's off. You're not frail. I'm not your father, although he did serve me well. Serve you well? As the man would then state, Tanjiro, you have the Hinokami, a quirk, a specialized quirk passed down through generations. It can only be passed down through reproductive processes, but every member who has had this quirk can access this certain plane. Certain plane? What are you talking about? As then this man would kneel down. Tanjiro, I am your ancestor. I won't reveal my name at the moment, but let's just say I'm your guardian. How about that? My guardian. We had to talk about the situation with your sister. Tanjiro suddenly woke up. A week went by. He's breathing heavily. He's remembering what happened. And his body began to flex out of anger. Where is she? Where am I? Then Tengen burst through the room trying to hold Tanjiro down. Tanjiro, stop it! Enough! It was then revealed Tanjiro was beating up the doctors trying to help him. Get this boy! As Tengen began to struggle, Tanjiro was to be able to flex every muscle in his body. Tengen was eventually able to overpower him. Calm down. You're okay. You're at the hospital. Tanjiro eventually calmed down. The doctors were able to get him on IV drips. Eventually, Tanjiro remembered what happened. Shit. I'm so... Tengen cut off Tanjiro. I'm sorry. I ignored everything. I knew your case file and how you felt. If I knew a League of Villains were going to be there, I wouldn't have assigned you that mission. I'm deeply, truly... Tanjiro cut him off. It's okay. Anyway, I realized it was my fault. I got too angry and... You see, of course you know, my sister joined the League of Villains and she won't give me a reason why. I need to find her. All I want is to know why. Why do it? Why hurt Mom like that? Why kill her like that? That is nothing like how Mom told us. Not even. Tanjiro got a flash. The same man he saw in his dream for a split second. He remembered. Tengen, please, for me, we have to pursue the League of Villains. I need to know. Tengen sighed. The doctor said based on your rate, you're probably not going to be able to do any more hero work for a month. But, luckily, we're on a case right now. What do you mean? MHA Saikai. You heard of them? The villain organization? Yeah, I've heard of them. Tengen then walked up before the giant case. Look, your legal guardian Inko. She already agreed for you to be able to stay in the UA dorms. Tanjiro was confused. UA dorms? Tengen replied, oh yeah, during a week of hiatus. The UA dorms were established to keep you guys safe. You already have a dorm room and all your stuff is there. Izuku has one too, right next to you just in case. Okay? Anyway, this case. I can't tell you much. This little girl. We have rumors that this guy named Overhaul is using this little girl's quirk to make quirk canceling bullets. Right now we do have a lead, but we're hitting dead ends. Look, you can't have doing any heroing for a month. But the doctors also said that your body can still move. You're just suggested not to do anything for a month. Tanjiro had a smile on his face. So I could still move. I mean, my body worked perfectly fine a minute ago. Tanjiro got up. I don't even feel that much. Well, that's thanks to your adrenaline. And some specialized quirk from a friend of mine. Wait, a friend of yours? Is it a friend of Mingoku's too? Let's just say, I have a group of friends that are really close. So, come on. We have to get you some new gear. Tanjiro then walked out of the hospital, checking out, going home to the UA dorms, unpacking his things, getting into regular clothes again. And although most UA students weren't actually at the dorms yet, you can already see Class 1A being here. Tanjiro walked out. So you were talking about new gear? Tengen was walking with Tanjiro and Mei Hatsume. Yeah, my babies. Well, it's only more like one baby. What do you mean one? Tanjiro opened a briefcase. A fox mask appeared, although it was more mechanical than the original one in the series. Tanjiro grabbed it. A fox mask? Well, you see, that Hinokami mode of yours is real damaging to your body. In order for you to figure out when to stop, we had this mask. Tanjiro put on the mask, and it auto-fit for the size of his face. So, what's this for? Tengen smiled proudly. Well, you can check your heart rate and stuff like that, but also allow you to see and move better. You see, look, you were damaged pretty bad and you lost some eyesight, as you could probably tell. That mask is supposed to help you. Tanjiro put on his hero costume and the mask and looked in the mirror. He realized how good he thought he looked. Wow, the mask really fits the suit. Tanjiro took it off and thanked Tengen. Tengen also stated, "Hey, about that Shihei Saikai case, there's a sub-case to it too." Tanjiro was confused. A sub-case? Oh, well, it's a lead. Here's the basic gist. We have a main lead, aka the Shihei Saikai, but sometimes these investigative cases can branch off a bit to other organized crime. Right now, we have another one. Apparently in, well, Tokyo. There's a drug cartel. We're pursuing it to make sure we know more about the Shihei Saikai in the process. And you're coming along. We're moving out tomorrow, so get some rest today. It just so happened to be that today is when the UA kids moved into their dorms. Tanjiro was already there. Everybody began to give Tanjiro's hugs, but the burn marks still hurt, so obviously he was in agonizing pain. Tanjiro looked around the room. Hey guys! Everybody was trying to warn Tanjiro, trying to console Tanjiro about how he felt, about how everything was going down, but Tanjiro decided to keep himself distant. Eventually, Tanjiro and Mina Ashido would actually agree to train later. Later that night, they're actually at Grand Beta. Mina is trying to teach Tanjiro how to break dance a bit better, more specifically windmills and stuff like that again. But this time Tanjiro felt a bit different. His heart was moving a bit faster than normal. Eventually Tanjiro questioned his feelings later and realized he might like Mina, but not in any normal way. Like, in a certain way. He began blushing, but then took his mind off it. That's not important right now. What's important is tomorrow. That sub-case. Tanjiro closed his eyes and had another dream. Tanjiro met that man again, as he was teasing Tanjiro. So, this Mina girl, you like her? Tanjiro was kind of creeped out. What are you talking about? I can see and know everything you're doing, Tanjiro. Tanjiro replied, that's kind of creepy and weird. G. Kamado. And to reply what you just said, I can choose whether or not to look or not look. It's not like you can always see what you're doing. It's just when I find something interesting, like a love partner, then I really want to listen. Tanjiro is still creeped out. Yuri will then state, yeah, you're right. Let's talk about Hinokami Kagura. More specifically, your Hinokami mode. Tanjiro would look back and sit down. Yurichi would then state, you're the first person that I know who's ever created something unique. Of course, there were others that had their own version of this mode, but only in name, not in presentation. Tanjiro would ask what he meant. Well, he would then point at Tanjiro's scar. That scar has not only been passed to you. He would then lift some of his hair. It was on me too. A birthmark. Anyway, what I mean is, your flames, well, they're more specific towards you. Every other member had a different type or a different variant of how they control it. Some even use their blood, for instance, to create flames like your sister. Tanjiro was then worried. Does my sister have this Kami Kagura? Yoriichi would then reply, yeah, she does. I also talk to her too. Well, I don't talk to her. He does. Tanjiro would ask, who's he? Yoriichi, my brother, Kokoshiba. Tanjiro would then begin to get bloodthirsty. Kokoshiba, aka the guy who tried to kill me? How old is he? Yoriichi would then explain. Kokoshiba was blinded by greed. Quirks started to reveal themselves 120 years ago. We happen to be Generation 1. But you see, when Kokoshiba meant all for one, he got bloodthirsty. All for one gave him the ability to gain quirks. The more he fought, the people he killed, the quirk he stole. He had to kill someone to gain their quirks. And you see, the more quirks he got, the more of a reputation he got. Thus, he was known as the healer killer Kokoshiba. But he liked to go by a different name. Tanjiro began to sweat. This name being, Yoriichi would look up, Kokoshiba the Blood Demon. And that's where Blood Demon art comes from. It's not just a silly name, it's a branding, it's a gang. Look, as his brother, I took it upon myself to stop him. Thus, I was also gifted with a different quirk. I was gifted to be able to do this, to astral project from a different side, to meet my descendants. We need to stop the Blood Demon Art gang, or else, as Tanjiro would stand up, or else what? From what I heard, Kokoshiba was under all for one, as Yoriichi would look up. Well, what if I told you Kokoshiba was a way to kill all for one, and when that happens, this world's gonna go to shit? Tanjiro looked back. You're joking. Yoriichi looked up with a bit of rage in his eye. If I was joking, I wouldn't have told you it. Look, Kokoshiba's dangerous. What he has over All For One is an infinite amount of power. Look, All For One might have brains, but Kokoshiba's definitely brawn. He also isn't stupid either sometimes. He might not be book smart, but when it comes to a fight, he can read you like a goddamn novel. Yoriichi walked up to Tanjiro. Look, we might want to meddle around with your hero work, but if you don't stop Kokoshiba from gaining more power, which he most certainly will, he might kill All For One. And when he does that, stealing his quirk and the infinite amount of quirks he probably stole, how many lives do you think are gonna be taken? Tanjiro began to sweat, but the sweat was cold. Yoriichi backed off. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Look, he sat down again. I'm asking you to do this. Your father tried, but then he met his match. What do you mean? He asked. Your father's killer. Well, let's just say he's Kokoshiba's sixth in command. As Tanjiro would ask, wait, so he also orders his gang? Yoriichi would resist the urge to punch Tanjiro because it was such an obvious implication, but he continued. The Blood Demon Art gang goes by what they call moons. This guy was the sixth moon, the sixth in command. The first moon, well, let's just say their quirks are busted. Like, for real. Tanjiro would cringe at the use of Yoriichi's modern language. Sorry. I pick it up after a while. Anyway, this guy was named Gitaro. His Blood Demon Art, or what he calls a quirk, poisoned blood. What's worse, he can manipulate it. It can also amplify his speed and strength.
not to mention this blood, well, when it enters your stream, the more you use your quirk, the more it's gonna kill you. Tanjiro was sweating even colder. Yuichi looked at Tanjiro. This drug cartel thing that you're pursuing, it might just lead you to him. Tanjiro would wake up, the alarm clock sounding. I guess it's time to get to hero work. Tanjiro opened a cold sweat. He got on his hero costume and put on his mask, and he walked out with Tengen. He walked to Tengen's agency with his normal team. Tengen, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke. And they all went to Tokyo. Tanjiro wakes up on the train after a long nap, and he gazes around the room. He sees Zenitsu and Inosuke awaken, and Tengen awakened as well right beside him, as Tengen asked if Tanjiro had a nice nap. Tanjiro would reply with yeah, it was okay, it was pleasant. And Tengen stating, okay, good, we're on our way to Tokyo right now. I kinda need you awake, so good thing you are re-energized and all. As then Tanjiro felt a presence, and he looked to his left, as he then sees a purple-haired girl with purple eyes, as she would then say that this boy seems to be a flame user. She can tell by not only his skin, but the toughness of it, but most flame users have red eyes, or a sense something to do with flames like red, yellow, or blue. Tanjiro was taken aback. This girl was right beside him, and he couldn't even tell until, well, she was literally near his face, as Tengen would introduce Shinobu. Her name is Shinobu Kocho. She's gonna be our poison specialist for this mission. She's also very strong, so don't underestimate her. As Tanjiro would say poison specialist, as Shinobu would correct Tengen. Well, quirk specialist in general. I study quirks for a side gig, but my hero in the first and foremost a hero. As Shinobu would then explain about their mission. Do you know Gitaru? As Tanjiro would be confused, but then remember, this is what Yuichi was talking about last night. As he would then shake his head yes, but not a very confident yes. As Shinobu would then state, well, Gitaro's main quirk that is speculated is poison, so I had to do some research. As she would then explain her knowledge of the difference between regular poison and quirk poisons. As she would then state, yeah, there's regular poisons, and I can pretty much heal those, but quirk poisons are special. See, they have the user's DNA, and since it's a poison type quirk, more specifically an emitter type quirk, it would then, the DNA in it will pretty much adapt to almost any situation if it's in internal bodies. She would then state that how it's going to be a lot harder to treat these, so we need to be extremely careful on this mission. Tanjiro Chick said yes, as he'd still remember what Yuichi said. If what Shinobu's saying is true, that means that pretty much Gitaro's poison is going to be almost nearly impossible to heal. Unless you had a self-healing quirk, you're pretty much dead and is missing if you get stabbed by him. Well, or if he injects poison in you. As Tengen would state, well, that's never going to happen because this team happens to be the best team in the entire world. Tanjiro actually liked Tengen's, well, enthusiastic chants, but he knew it wasn't really true. They couldn't be the best team in the world. After all, Zenitsu Inosuke and him are all first years in the hero course. More specifically, he's from UA and Zenitsu is from, I don't know, another school randomly in Tokyo, in Japan, same with Inosuke, it doesn't matter. But Shinobu would still also have the same confidence as Tengen. Team Uzui, as they're called, plus Shinobu, would arrive at Tokyo finally. They step out and Tengen takes a deep breath. Now this is what I'm talking about. Tokyo. As Tengen would look behind to his team. Alright guys, I'm gonna have to split this up. Everybody would be kind of confused as Tengen would explain the teams. Alright, I'll be by myself, Zenitsu and Inosuke, you'll be teammates, and Shinobu and Tanjiro, you'll be teammates. Tanjiro needs some experted wisdom, and since Zenitsu and Inosuke already worked together for a long time, I have confidence in this team. As he asked if anyone had any questions or concern, nobody really did. As Tengen would state, alright, look, we're not here to actually gain trouble. Yes, if we do run into Kitaro, then capturing him would be pleasant, but we're only here for the drugs and the quick canceling bullets. Remember, we're not here to stop the villains, although if we are confronted with that option, we should take it. We're here to retrieve items. You got it? So don't hurt yourselves. As he specifically looked at Tanjiro and Zenitsu. As he then would get back to schedule, Tengen would then state, alright, look, I'll check the north and east side of Tokyo. Zenitsu and Inosuke will check the west side of Tokyo. Tanjiro and Shinobu will check the south side of Tokyo. As you would then split everybody up, everybody went their respective ways. As Tanjiro would actually get some word of wisdom of Shinobu. She would then state, this is a self mission, so you shouldn't use those jet proportion things I read about. Those seem to make a lot of noise. How about you run on your tiptoes? Keep it quiet, but you're still fast. As she would then demonstrate, and Tanjiro would use the same. As Shinobu would then state, but you also should kinda use the jet things. Look, you can use them as a boost on the ground, just don't use it to propulse through the air. We're here to check things out, like shady houses and stuff like that. So let's be quiet on this mission. After a while, every team pretty much is trying to find, go under subway stations, abandoned warehouses, heck, even going through massive buildings just to make sure they check everything. A few hours go by until Inosuke, over the common communication system in his ear, would then state something. Inosuke would comment, the walls, they move like worms, but there's clearly nothing inside these walls. Guys, keep your guard up. Maybe this is someone's quirk trying to scare me. As Tengen would state, if they know what your quirk is, some even have a bigger problem than before. I'ma still keep searching. I finished off the east side, nothing here. I'm heading toward the north. Be careful. As then Inosuke would eventually using his enhanced, Inosuke with his enhanced touch and Zenitsu with his enhanced hearing, as due to his quirk. Inosuke and Zenitsu would notice crate-like things near a cut-off subway, an abandoned subway actually. As they enter this subway, there's a bunch of crates, and Inosuke would open one of them. A bunch of red, pin-like things, as Inosuke would then state, I think I found the bullets. As he would then look at Zenitsu as a black-haired girl with pale skin would appear right behind them. Find what? She asked. As she would then grab Zenitsu and Inosuke with giant ribbons and throw them out the subway. As Inosuke and Zenitsu prepared for battle, she then stated, remember the name Daki, as I will kill you all. But I don't need to find your names, we don't have enough room for named graves. As she would then engage for battle, Zenitsu and Inosuke would take a step back as Daki would use her ribbons. Zenitsu would use Thunder Shock Quartet. Basically, he will point his finger through the air and 4 giant thunderbolts would shock different ribbons. Inosuke would use his giant sword and yell Crazy Cut as he rapidly slashed in a circular motion around him to cut off the ribbons. Daki would jump up to a building using her ribbons to boost her up, as she would relentlessly try and attack Zenitsu and Inosuke, cornering them into an alleyway, with both openings of the alleyway being covered with giant ribbons, trying to attack them. Eventually, Zenitsu had enough as he would then yell, alright then, thunderclapping flash, as he bolted straight towards Daki, punching her in the face. She would fly towards the direction of where the punch was landed, and then Zenitsu would then say, sixfold. As he did this, a 6th chained combo would happen, with the last hit being an uppercut. Daki would be flung toward the nearest building as she would try and use ribbons again, as she pretty much full body bandaged Zenitsu, but he would just simply have a burst of energy destroying the bandages. Inosuke would jump up to the rooftops and bolt as he yelled Bull Rush.
When he did this, he used his giant ass, I want to say sharp, but like rigid swords, as he would slash through ribbons and then kick Daki in the face. This would happen for a while, of just them relentlessly attacking her, and she's taking the beating, as she then began to cry a little bit. When this happened, all the ribbons around Tokyo would aim straight for Daki and then impale her. As they did, her hair turned white, and her skin even began to go more pale. She began to laugh maniacally as Zenitsu overcomes. Yo, we found somebody. Her name's Daki. I think she's working with Gitaru. Anyway, she had black hair, but now she has white hair. We may need... As he said that, a ribbon was heading straight for Zenitsu's face. At first, he wanted to dodge normal, he was going to attack it, but then he realized the speed, as his ears would begin to ring because of a supersonic boom. Inosuke would kick Zenitsu out the way. For the fastest member, you have the weakest reaction times. Even I could. As then around 3 ribbons would aim for his heart, as he would try and attack him, but all he could do was just dodge. What? These ribbons, they're faster? As Zenitsu would state, a sonic boom. That means they're moving at supersonic speeds. As he would go over comms. Somebody help us. You know where our location is. West side. East. As he would begin to faint a little. Help. She's moving so fast, she's creating sonic booms in my hearing. His ears would begin to bleed. Someone help us. I don't know how long we can last with her. She got faster. Hearing this over comms, Tanjiro really wanted to make his way towards him, and Shinobi would then state, listen, I'll finish up here. You go help your friends. Tanjiro would do the thing Shinobi told him, run on his tippy toes, only using jet to proportion on the ground instead of on air. Zenitsu and Inosuke would have trouble trying to deflect and attack the ribbons, as the Daki would laugh maniacally. Zenitsu would try and use Thunderclap and Flash, but the ribbons would get in their way, so he had to stop himself mid-air and jump back. He would then state to himself in his mind, should I use Godspeed? No, I can only use those twice a day. What if I have to fight Gitaru and he's faster than her? I don't know. I'll have to use it as a last resort. Either when Inosuke is about to die or someone else who's coming is about to die. Yeah. And Zenitsu will be blitzing around the area. Eventually, both Daki grabbed both Inosuke and Zenitsu ribbons, and they were more durable than last time, so they couldn't just use their simple tricks. Daki would swing and slam them towards grounds, buildings, rooftops, stuff like that. Eventually, Zenitsu had an idea, as he then electrocuted the ribbons himself, electrocuting Daki as the ribbons would burst into flames, as he then said taser. Inosuke would try and get himself free, but Zenitsu would then just yell, Zap Quartet. As 4 thunderbolts would be aimed at the one string that was holding Zenitsu, and thus letting him free. He'd need to begin to breathe heavily. This overuse of his quirk is beginning to fry his muscles, and thus he's beginning to get tired and slower. As he was thinking about using Godspeed, Daki would just yell that there's nothing they can, as she was cut off. Tanjiro, right at the side of her face, throws a mean left hook. When this happens, he would then yell Ember. As he would finish the movement, Daki would get flung around 100 meters at pretty much because of the four members, she's like, I don't know, to the left or something. It doesn't really matter. She just gets flung 100 meters as a giant burn mark would be appeared on her face, as she would then begin to get mad. Tanjiro has now entered the battle. Tanjiro stares Daki down as Daki stares back with a burn mark on her cheek, or the facial cheek, face cheek. And basically, this will begin Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu versus Daki. There's no real reason to get in specifics, but basically they're brawling, and Daki's doing really good against all 3 of them. And basically, Inosuke is trying to think of ways to get into Daki's defense.
because the way she moves like an octopus, it's almost like she always has defense. Meanwhile, Tengen is sneaking through the city, and he hears a voice. "These are the quirk bullets you wanted, right? Look, I shouldn't be seen with you guys, but as long as Overhaul doesn't mind it, I don't give a damn." Tengen sneaks in, and he sees a green-haired man with pale skin. Gitaro, Tengen thinks to himself. The only person that has that type of hair in that type of way. He then sees two other people, Dabi and Nezuko, as Nezuko and Dabi are both holding giant crates of what is assumed to be quirk-canceling bullets. Tengen thinks, when Dabi and Nezuko are out of eyesight, Tengen will go in for a sneak attack against Gitaro, but he sees it coming and Gitaro blocks it. Dabi and Nezuko notice this and try running away, but Tengen tries to run after them, since his real mission is to get the quirk bullets, not to fight Gitaro. Jesus. But eventually Gitaro actually gets right in front of him, and now it's Tengen versus Gitaro. It looks around the same like in the anime for Demon Slayer, but imagine they're in a warehouse and he doesn't have to use explosions, he uses like Zenitsu's quirk, Inosuke's quirk, you know what I'm saying? Basically they're fighting, and they're so fast compared to each other, they're around the same speed, but they are so fast it's like a blur. And Dabi tells Nezuko, "Yeah, I'm not really trying to get into all that, let's just run away." Nezuko and Dabi try to run, but as Shinobu was trying to head because her side of the city was done, she was going to help Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu, she actually runs into Dabi and Nezuko. And Dabi and Nezuko can only see one way. They can go back and get in the mess of Tengen versus Gitaro, or fight Shinobu. But since Shinobu looks frail and weak, they decide to fight her anyway. In this case, Dabi and Nezuko versus Shinobu commences. Tengen and Gitaro's fight begin to speed up and intensify so much to the point where they actually burst through the wall. In this case, they actually can see Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu versus Daki's fight, and pretty much like out of eyesight. And Gitaro notices that Daki's kind of in the ropes, even though she's doing well to defend herself. Eventually, something bad might happen, so he tries to go help Daki. In this case, he tries hitting Inosuke, but he happens to get out the way fast enough. And now Gitaro fights Tengen and like some of the other members of Team Uzui. And at this point, the fight just merges in, as Gitaro's more of attacking and Daki is kind of like a sniper, if you can say so. And all the members of Team Uzui are there, so at this point, it does not, like, it just merges into one big fight. Meanwhile, Dabi and Nezuko keep trying to run away from Shinobu, and eventually they do, but on accident, they run into Gitaro fighting Team Uzui. At this point, it just becomes Gitaro, Daki, Dabi, and Nezuko versus Team Uzui and Shinobu. Gitaro still tries targeting Tengen since he realizes that he's kind of the biggest threat. Tengen's the fastest, and not only that, he can actually use other people's quirks and probably even better ways than the original person. So he targets him more, and that fight is happening on the ground. Meanwhile, Daki fights Inosuke and Tanjiro as Zenitsu actually splits up to go fight Nezuko. Zenitsu tells Tanjiro that he's not going to harm Nezuko that bad, and all he's going to do is subdue her and or knock her out. Tanjiro gives the okay, and Dabi actually fights Shinobu. Zenitsu and Nezuko are fighting in like a room in a different building, and basically because Zenitsu is not outdoors and Nezuko's whole thing is exploding blood, this is a little bit hard for him since he's literally holding back so he doesn't hurt her. Eventually Zenitsu is able to knock Zenitsu out of a window, but luckily she's able to catch herself, and now they're on the ground. Zenitsu will use a move that he has invented where he jumps into the air and then yells Thunderbolt. When he does this, his hand is charged by the nearby electricity, like lights and stuff, and then he punches Nezuko around the forehead and does shoot a bolt of electricity through her, but only enough to knock her out, not to kill her, as he holds it back a bit, even though it was kind of hard to. He knocks her out and he tells Tanjiro over communications that he's gonna go over there and help Inosuke and him versus Daki, that Nezuko is knocked out but she's fine and she'll live. Eventually, the trio work together, and what Inosuke's plan was is since Zenitsu and Tanjiro's quirks have a burning effect on the ribbons, all Inosuke has to do is just trust them. He's gonna bore rush through, and all they have to do is just keep the ribbons away from him, and he has a way to basically hurt Daki. They all believe that this will work, and Tanjiro uses his Hinokami and basically burns away the ribbons, as Zenitsu would use Thunderclap and Flash eightfold, as he's just burning away the ribbons, because electrifying them doesn't make any sense, it still burns. And basically, they do this for a bit until Inosuke is close enough to Daki to headbutt her and knock her out. When this happens, Gyutaro sees it and he cuts off Tengen's left hand. When he does this, he also poisons him, and now Tengen's like writhing in pain as he jumps towards Inosuke and stabs the left side of his chest. Gyutaro would hold Inosuke high up, and he'd pretty much say, "For someone who's so weak, you just happen to be quite a bit strong, quite a bit competent. But compared to me, you're nothing. You ugly trash," as he throw away Inosuke. When this happens, Tanjiro sees Inosuke in the big gaping hole in his chest as he was thrown into a nearby room in like a building. And basically, Tanjiro will look around and he noticed that basically Tengen's left hand is cut off and he's on the floor writhing in pain. Shinobu's too focused fighting Dabi in order to help, and Zenitsu would actually push Tanjiro as Gyutaro would yell, "Blood slash scatter shot." When this happens, the entire area of which they were fighting in gets chopped up like fucking onions. Like, goddamn, sorry. It's just, you know that scene in Demon Slayer where the ground started glowing and everything with the shit? Yeah, that's the exact same, but it's a bit different. But Zenitsu only pushed Tanjiro enough for him not to get cut. The explosion still hurt him, and basically he's shot to a nearby area on the floor, and he's fading in and out of consciousness. When this happens, Dabi picks up Nezuko and tries to run away, as Tanjiro would like stick his hand out like saying Nezuko, and then he blacks out. When he does wake up, he's surrounded by flames and burning buildings, explosions a bit because gas tanks and shit like that, and he's trying to find where everybody is, but he just simply can't. I'm so sorry, that is my dogs if you hear that. He just can't. I'm sorry, that's my dogs. I don't want to just yell at them. Basically, he's looking around, but he can't. And then Gyutaro actually walks up to Tanjiro and asks, how is he still alive? Tanjiro is just, panicking. He's trying to catch his breath. He's been using his quirk non-stop for the past 30 minutes. Yes, it's only been 30 minutes. As Tanjiro looks up to Gyutaro would comment how he knows about his Nezuko and Tanjiro situation and how they're siblings. And Gyutaro states that he actually respects the fact that Tanjiro's trying to help her out. He's trying to put her back into the good side, but he's still failing. And Gyutaro would just stick his hand out as he states, "If you join the villain side, if you join our side, you can help Nezuko. Not in the way you intentionally thought, but now you can help her out with the villain plans they were conjuring up a bit." As Gyutaro would smile and just say, "She is too far gone to help out the normal way. I think it's time you either do drastic measures by hurting her, or you can join her." As Gyutaro would state that he even has a free spot that he can join on his part of a league of villains on his own. Tanjiro looks at Gyutaro's hand. He grits his teeth and headbutts Gyutaro. Now remember, he's not a demon, so this actually still hurts. Gyutaro's trying to find his footing, but Tanjiro just starts wailing on Gyutaro using the Hinokami Kagura like Ember, but he's just going non-stop over and over again. Every single time Gyutaro tried hitting him, it would just be revealed that Tanjiro was using that rainbow haze shit, flash per second, and it's revealed that Tanjiro is actually a step behind, and then he continues on while flashing him, and this will just go on forever. Eventually, Gyutaro does try stabbing Tanjiro, but he just steps to the side, and Gyutaro wonders why he did it, as then he sees a blinding light as Zenitsu's revealed to use Godspeed on Gyutaro. Gyutaro's now just fucking going everywhere. He's just zooming through the entire city as it's revealed that Zenitsu's pretty much punching Gitaru and burning him, electrocuting him all at the same time. As Zenitsu would just yell, "Godspeed!" As he's zooming, he's making zigzags everywhere, and then Tanjiro realizes that there must be a plan to this. Gitaru would break from Godspeed as Zenitsu would chuckle, but his Godspeed would run out. When Gitaru finally breaks from Godspeed, he actually gets hit in the back, then in the front, then in the side multiple times, and he can't see it, as he then sees Tengen when it was slowed down. Tengen would shout, "Thank you, Zenitsu, now I can use your flashy quirk along with my musical score." Then Tengen and Gitaru would commence in battle, but this is just not fair. Tengen is way faster and he can use Godspeed a lot longer. Eventually Daki goes to help Gitaru, but it's revealed that Zenitsu pretty much just jumps in front of him. He can't use Godspeed at the moment, but he can still use his normal quirk. He starts zapping the thing, but Daki does get the upper hand because Zenitsu is severely slowed down. When it's then revealed that Inosuke would jump forward and punch Daki in the face, as Inosuke would explain, his heart's on the right side, not the left. As the events unfolded, Tanjiro finally came to his senses and realized, what was going on. Tengen was fighting Gitaru by himself, and Zenitsu and Inosuke were both fighting Daki. Shinobu would come up to Tanjiro as the blazes in the background burned. She explained that after Gitaru used his quirk, she got separated with Dabi and Nezuko, and they both ran off. Tanjiro was saddened. Not again. He couldn't remember why. He couldn't figure out why Nezuko became a villain, but he had to find out. In order to do that, he has to survive this battle. Tanjiro gets up, dusts himself off, and begins to breathe, meditate, trying to get in the right state of mind as he runs after to help Inosuke and Zenitsu against Daki. Shinobu would use poison on her blade and helps Tengen against Gitaru. Shinobu eventually, as the battle rages on, poisons Gitaru. Tengen would try and get close to Gitaru and use his blades to try and siphon out most of the poison, but it wasn't working. He was getting slower and slower by the second, and he didn't know what to do. Eventually, he was able to view everyone's quirk. As he began to laugh, Gitaru would ask what's so funny, as Tengen would shout, "My quirk, it's called Sound Mimic. When I hear a quirk, I can copy it. That goes for yours as well." As Gitaru would realize the error of his ways, this fight was going on too long, and at this point, with his musical score, Tengen could mimic Gitaru's fighting style, same with Daki's and everybody around him. Tengen took a deep breath as he told the villain to clench his jaw, cause this is going to hurt. Tengen combined the quirks of Tanjiro, Daki, Gitaru, Inosuke, Zenitsu, Dabi, Nezuko, and his musical score to create one rainbow-colored giant slash as he yelled, "Sound Mimic." This giant slash was heading straight for Gitaru, but he blocks it, only knocking him out. Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Tanjiro's fight against Daki raged on. Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu both were bleeding heavily and running out of blood. They both were fading in and out of consciousness. Only their friendship and them punching each other literally in the face to keep each other awake would allow this fight to continue on. Daki realized that Gitaru was defeated, and thus was caught off guard as Inosuke slashed at Daki. Daki jumped back. As Inosuke eventually got an idea, he tells Zenitsu and Tanjiro that they're gonna have to jump her. They tried, but it couldn't work. Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Tanjiro rushing at Daki in the air as Inosuke would boost Zenitsu, and Zenitsu would hold Tanjiro. Zenitsu would go above Daki as Zenitsu would use all of his strength to boost Tanjiro, and Tanjiro would use all of his strength, the power in his quirk, to ignite his entire body. Daki would see Tanjiro's entire body naked in flames, as the flames then were soloed to one singular point, his fist, as Tanjiro would yell, "Ember!" He would throw a jab and knock out Daki. This would pretty much act like a missile, honestly, because when Daki's body hit the ground, an explosion was created. After the dust settled, an ambulance went to Tokyo in the entertainment district. Tanjiro's hand was burning off. Everybody was tired, and thus they were all sent to the hospital. Tanjiro woke up after 2 days, and of course, the doctor had to talk to Tanjiro. He told him that Tanjiro's quirk was getting too dangerous. This time, if he ever uses an attack of that magnitude again, he could burn off his entire arm. He's lucky that they were able to save his hands. Tanjiro would look and see permanent burn marks on his fingers and hands. The doctor would state that it's going to take a week for rehabilitation, but they should work fine, and would preference if you use an attack on that scale, your hands could burn off, or worse, become unusable. Tanjiro, after a week, would get news that a boy named Deku fought a villain, and even heard from teachers that Izuku fought the creator of the quirk erasing bullets and won. Eventually, Tanjiro and Izuku would meet up and talk about it. And thus, they were able to go back to UA as Tengen, without an arm, said that for now, that the Tengen Uzui agency is going to go on pause, as he has to get used to fighting with one arm, and it's going to take a bit. And thus, this is kind of his break. Tanjiro would walk in the dorms of UA with Izuku. Izuku, who would put his bags away, same as Tanjiro, as all of Class 1A would want to hear all about the sports, all about the internships with Izuku and Tanjiro. Tanjiro would simply state, well, actually, mine's kind of an off-brand of Izuku's. You see, I was trying to stop quirk erasing bullets from getting onto the streets. Izuku fought the main source. Eventually, this very grim conversation changed to about the recent news of the UA school festival, and thus talk of how Class 1A is going to set up their event for the school festival began. As the conversation became more vibrant, Tanjiro warmly smiled, as for the first time it seemed like forever, he was happy to see his friends again. But this was short-lived, as within a blink of an eye, the room went cold and silent and dark. Tanjiro looked up to see his friends, all of them, their bodies mutilated, red on the floor. Tanjiro then looked up to see All for One, but this wasn't the original All for One, the one that he knew. This All for One had no mask. He could only see his mouth and hair. His hair was very, very white. Like, I'm talking the whitest white. He then saw his friends' bodies shift into people he didn't even recognize. As he then looked to his right and saw a very young Yoriichi, he would cry as he said, "You killed them. You killed them all." As All for One would look down at Yoriichi. Now, no need to shift the blame, Yoriichi. I didn't kill them. It was you. You pulled the trigger. I'm simply a bullet. Tanjiro would be shaken out of his trance. Izuku would ask if Tanjiro is alright, as Tanjiro would say yes, but Kaminari would ask, "Are you sure? Because you were saying some weird stuff." Tanjiro would reply with that he's just tired and that he's gonna head up to bed. As Tanjiro sleeps, that same dream plays in his head, but this time it was extended. You killed them all. You killed all my friends. Now, Yorichi. No need to shift the blame. You killed them all. You pulled the trigger. I'm just the bullet. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. They were innocent. They had nothing to do with this. Yorichi, you just don't get it. I asked you to do one thing. Retrieve one for all and bring it to me. But you had to complicate things. And now you're simply getting the punishment you deserve. You'll die tonight. This is our final battle. Oh, for one for all. It doesn't matter. It ends here. It's funny. You're interesting, Yorichi Sugakuni. But you got one thing wrong. Yes, this will be our final battle, but you'll see that you'll die tonight. Not me. Tanjiro woke up all of a sudden, with one tear rolling down his face, and she would then ask, "Who was that?"